Hello. Hi everyone. Good evening, guys. Welcome back to Unacademy NEET English channel. As you can see, guys, tomorrow is 7th of June. 7th of June, and we have All India mock test tomorrow from 2 to 5 p.m. Please make sure that you have set your alarm for 1:45 so that you get ready for the test, and you have to take this test, right? And the link is given in the description box. Even in my Telegram channel, if you have any problem, you can simply click there and enroll for the test, right? Good evening, all of you. So shall we start with the session? Guys, this is going to be the last session of our marathons, because today I'm going to complete this whole syllabus, and after that we are going to start with some smaller session like important things, diagram revision and all those revisions, frog, cockroach, scientists, summaries, introduction. So we have to do a lot of things. We have to practice a lot of questions, and that practice has already begun. And whether your preparation is going in the right direction, for that we have this. You have to take this analysis tomorrow, exact NEET replica, so that you also get detailed performance insight, that what kind of questions you're going wrong with, right? So good evening, all of you. Quickly give me a thumbs up that you're ready, and we can start with the session. And those of you who have missed on any session, and you find a particular session difficult, a particular topic difficult, you can re-watch these marathons at a quicker speed, at a faster speed. Yes, good evening. Quickly share this session with all of your friends, and like, subscribe, share. That is the drill. You completed all sessions except 11th Botany. Okay, Varshita. Yes, Varshita. Please watch that as soon as possible. Okay. And today we are going to complete our ecology and the chapter of ecology and sexual reproduction in angiosperms. I will be uploading the notes today also. I don't know, yesterday's notes are not opening the file is not opening. Some students have complained. I'll upload it again today. All right. Good evening. Shall we start? All right, guys. Let's start with the first chapter of ecology, that is ecosystem. Ecosystem, guys, is the functional unit of nature. And in ecosystem, we have two components. One is the living component and the non-living component, which is known as abiotic, and living components are known as biotic components, right? Now in abiotic, that is non-living components, we have sunlight, water, soil, and temperature. Let me know in the chat, out of these four, which one is the most important? Which one of them is the most important? Quickly let me know in the chat. And then, guys, we have biotic factors or biotic components. In biotic components, we have producer, consumer, and decomposers. So this is also a way of classification. So producers are all autotrophs. It includes plants, blue-green algae, and green algae. So the producers will differ depending upon the type of the trophic chain, food chain, and the ecosystem. And then consumers are always heterotrophs, or they are heterotrophs, right? So they can be parasitic as well. Then herbivores, omnivores, carnivores, and parasites, right? And decomposers. So on the death of the organism, be it producer or consumer, these decomposers are going to decompose the organic matter, the dead body, and the main decomposers of our ecosystem are bacteria and fungi. So this is basic, very basic, right? Next is the examples of ecosystem. Now see, so we can divide ecosystem on many bases. So first of all, whether it is natural or it is artificial. So artificial is man-made, that is crop, aquarium, garden, pond, lake, ecosystem. These are all man-made. Lake, if it is natural, then it comes under the natural ecosystem. And in natural, we have forest, mountain, desert, ocean, and river. Now, what is the difference apart from the fact that this is man-made and this is naturally existing? Other difference between these two the difference between these two is that here in the natural ecosystem we have a larger amount of biodiversity, whereas in artificial ecosystem the diversity is actually very small, right? We have lesser number of organisms and organisms here. Then it can be aquatic or it can be terrestrial, so we obviously can understand that which one will be aquatic and which one are the terrestrial. Is that clear? Now, so we are building up. Now coming on to components of ecosystem. Now see, there are 4 components of ecosystem. One is productivity. From here it begins. Now these components are going to be very, very important. Productivity, decomposition, nutrient cycling and energy flow. See, nutrient cycling has been omitted from your syllabus, but we still must know that what are the 4 components of ecosystem. It is productivity, energy flow, mineral or nutrient recycling and decomposition, and we have to discuss each component in detail. Let's start first with energy flow, because it all begins with the energy flowing from sun and then moving into the trophic chain. So first of all, sun is the main source of energy. We all know that, except for in case of geo. Yes, where is the exception? What is the exception to this line? Anybody? What is the exception to this line? So when we say sun is the main source of energy, what does NCERT say? Quickly let me know. There is an exception given, except for geothermal energy, right? Okay, now see, so sun is the main source of energy. So the energy which is entering the atmosphere, out of that guys, out of that only 50% of the total incident light is power. Only 50%. What is power? Photosynthetically active range, right? Now out of that 50%, plants will capture only 2 to 10% of power. You have to remember these, you have to remember this data. Power is 50% of the total insolation. Now plants will capture between 2 to 10% of the power, right? And now this energy which is captured, it is captured by the producers, who will convert this light energy into the chemical energy. Yes, so from producers, now only 10% of energy is transferred to the next level, which is herbivores. So energy produced by herbivores, only 10% goes to the primary, and then only 10% goes to the upper trophic level. Is that clear? So I hope this calculation is very clear to you. Now for example, if producers have 10,000 joules, whatever be the unit, be it in kilocalories, joules or kilojoules, so whatever, it is just 10% being carried forward. So this is known as 10% law. This is known as 10% law. So remember, energy will always go on decreasing, and there is always unidirectional flow of energy. Energy cannot flow in the opposite direction, because obviously plants will never eat herbivores. So how will plants get the energy from herbivores? So there is unidirectional flow of energy. Are these points clear? Now coming on to food chain. So what do we understand by food chain? Means who eats who. So who becomes the food for the other organism? This is called the food chain, right? Now there are first of all 2 types of food chains. One is a grazing food chain, another is the detritus food chain, guys. In grazing food chain, I'll call it GFC, it starts with the producers. Remember that. See, what is the difference? I have compared. So grazing food chain will start with the producers, and like for example, plants produce food eaten by herbivores, herbivore eaten by primary consumer, and so on, right? And these consumers are holozoic. So remember, like grass, goat, man. So this is another example of grazing food chain. Now remember, grazing food chain is the main source of, it is the main source of energy flow in the aquatic ecosystem. These lines are very important now. And now in the case of detritus food chain, guys, in detritus food chain, it starts with it is the main source of energy flow in terrestrial ecosystem. So in aquatic, GFC, and in terrestrial ecosystem it is DFC, detritus food chain always starts with the dead body, that is the dead organic matter. So it will start with the dead organic matter, and hence the decomposes. Starts with the dead organic matter and the decomposers. Is that clear? So who are the decomposers? It's a fungi and bacteria. Is this point clear to all? So you have to remember these lines very carefully. In terrestrial ecosystem, the main energy source, how will main energy source start? It is because of the decomposers that everything goes back to the soil, right? And from soil, plants will again absorb the nutrients. So in terrestrial ecosystem starts with the detritus food chain, while in aquatic ecosystem it starts with the grazing food chain. Are we clear? Now what is a food web? Food web is the form of interconnected food chains, because see, the concept of food chain is actually very theoretical, because it is not necessary that grass will only be eaten by goat. There are many other organisms who are dependent on grass, and also every goat doesn't become a dish for the human being, right? It can be a prey to a lion also, and to other consumers as well. Is that clear? So there are so many different interconnected food chains operating. So actually it is the concept of food web. Interconnected food chains form food web. It is the food web which is an actual or the realistic phenomena or the concept occurring in nature, and not really the food chain. Is that clear? Now we have two very important terms. One is standing state and another is standing crop. Listen. See, standing state is the total amount of non-living matter available to the producers at the specific time. So, in state, we talk about non-living matter, that means the inorganic matter. While there is another term called standing crop. In case of crop, guys, we talk about the living matter, total amount of living matter, that means the biomass. Now, this, just remember, crops are always living. So for standing crop, it is total amount of living matter, and state is a state of total amount of non-living matter. Will you be able to remember these points? So in ecology, guys, it's not only the concept that you have to remember, there is lot of rectification also. So all these pointers that I'm giving you how to remember, please listen to them very carefully, okay, and take notice of that. Now listen. See, so standing crop means it will be total, it is the total amount of living matter. Now, this can be expressed as fresh weight as well as dry weight. Now, we have also read the chapter of biomolecules. Let me know in the chat, what do you think, out of fresh weight and dry weight, which is more authentic? If we have to measure, which one is more authentic? Yes, it has to be dry weight, because fresh weight contains the moisture content, the water content, now that differs. So real biomass is always the dry weight. It has a more authentic value. Is that clear? Now let's talk about productivity. So we have talked about the first component, which is energy flow, and we have seen it starts from sun. Just 50% goes is the power, and out of that 50% power, we plants get only 2 to 10%, and from that 2 to 10% which is captured by the plants, only 10% goes to the upper trophic level. Is that clear? So energy will go on decreasing. So unidirectional flow, following the 10% law, energy will go on decreasing from the lower to the upper trophic level. So this is the first component of ecosystem. Second component, that we have talked about four different pillars, four components. The second component is productivity. The second component is productivity. Now, there are 2-3 terms related to it. First of all, you should be clear about the difference between production and productivity, and then we'll talk about gross primary productivity and NPP. Is that clear? Now, listen. First of all, what is primary production? What is primary production? So primary production, guys, is the amount of organic matter. It is the amount of organic matter produced per unit area over a period of time by plants during photosynthesis. So primary production is always the organic matter produced per unit area by the plants. And how will plants produce organic matter? By the process of photosynthesis. Now see the units. This is where we will make mistake. Okay, so take care of these units. Now in production, guys, it is amount of organic matter, and what are we taking? We are considering the unit area. So amount will be measured either in grams or kilocalories. It can either be in terms of weight or it can be in terms of energy. So in terms of weight, organic matter will be measured in grams, and in terms of energy we will measure it in terms of kilocalories, right? And then per unit area, so per meter square, is that clear? So the units are either gram per meter square or kilocalories per meter square. Is that clear? Now coming on to primary productivity, what is the difference here? The only difference is that as compared to production, whenever we are talking about productivity, we are bringing the time factor here. So it becomes rate of biomass production. See, whenever you come across this term rate, a lot of times in physics, it is always a time dependent process. So whatever this production, howsoever this production happened, now in what amount of time did it occur, right? So it is the time factor included. So see here, so what will be the units? The units will be exactly same, gram per meter square, kilocalories per meter square, but now the time has been included per year. Are you getting that? This is in terms of weight, this is in terms of energy. So the difference between production and productivity is clear. If productivity brings the time factor in it. So be very careful. This is already a PYQ. The units are very, very important. Last year also we got a question on this. Is that clear? Yes? All right. Now moving on to, so productivity, right? Primary productivity. So what is primary here? So primary word indicates the beginning. Who's the beginner? Producers are the beginners, right? So production at the producer level by the plants, productivity again at the producer level. Is that clear? Okay. Now primary productivity is of two types. One is GPP, gross primary productivity, and then we have NPP, net primary productivity. So if we keep it simple, so NPP is equal to GPP minus R. And what is R? R is the respiratory loss. Now please understand this. See, plants are producing food. Now if we go by the ethics and we talk about the circle of life, then of course plants are producers for us, right? But that's not the real case also, like not completely. If plants are producing food, that food is not only for us. Plants also have to survive. So they are also utilizing a big chunk of it, right? So see what happens. So the amount of food produced or the amount of biomass, the rate of biomass by the plants. So what the plants have produced at the producer level, right? That is GPP. But then the remaining is given to the next trophic level, to the second trophic level, which is of herbivores. So what will happen? So what is remaining for the next trophic level is known as net primary productivity. So net primary productivity is GPP minus respiratory loss of the plants. That means what they have consumed themselves. So the remaining thing which is left and which will be available to the next trophic level, that will be NPP. So NPP is which is available to the next level, available for next trophic level. Is this point clear? Next trophic level. So this is what has been produced by the plants and this is what is available to the herbivores. Are these points clear to everyone? And please be very careful about the units. And now factors on which primary productivity depends. So that means the producers, how much biomass has been produced, it will depend on many factors. Number one, plant species. Number one is plant species. So every plant has a different level of its production or the productivity. Then environmental factors. If we want the plant to have higher productivity, then we must provide more nutrients or it should have higher photosynthetic capacity. Do you remember in the chapter of photosynthesis, we keep on saying that C4 plants have higher productivity. So that is also the case. Now let's say if the soil is not fertile, how can we expect the plant to have higher productivity? Is that clear? So it is availability of nutrients as well as the photosynthetic capacity of the plant as well. So these are the factors. Now this is something that I have, now I've told you that NPP is what is available to the next trophic level. Now there are many facts that you must know. So annual primary productivity of the whole biosphere is 170 billion tons. You have to remember these values, right? So in 3rd May NEET 2026 also we got 12 questions from ecology, guys. That is the importance of this unit. So 170 billion tons, that is a dry weight, because dry weight is more authentic, right? Now, see, out of 170 billion tons, which is of the whole biosphere, and productivity of oceans is only 55 billion tons. See, I hope we remember the basic of geography, that on Earth, 70% area is occupied by oceans, right? So, when 70% belongs to the oceans, then at least they should have at least half of the productivity, but that's not the case. Oceans are just providing 55 billion tons in the whole. They are only contributing very less to the whole productivity of the whole biosphere. So rest is all terrestrial. Now the question is, what counts for low productivity of oceans even though they occupy major part of Earth's surface? So the low productivity is due to the limitation of the light, because light is not completely penetrating to the deep waters. So that is what counts for low productivity, even if they are occupying 70% of the Earth's land area. Are we clear here? Please tell me. Are we clear? Yes, guys. Please tell me these points are clear to all. Are we clear? Right? All right, guys. Now, moving on to the next slide, which is decomposition. So energy flow is done, productivity is done. Let's move on to the third pillar of the ecosystem, third component, that is composition. Third component is composition. Wow. Sorry, decomposition. Third component is decomposition. Now listen. What is decomposition? Decomposition we very simply explain like degradation of the dead organic matter. Yes? Okay. So all the raw material for the decomposition, guys, is known as detritus. So the everything that will undergo decomposition, that will be known as detritus, right? What does it consist of? It consists of everything, be it plant waste or animal waste, that all comes under detritus. In plant waste we have leaves and bark and flowers, and in animal waste there is animal dung, urine. Now everything is going to undergo decomposition. Is that clear? So it can be dry leaves, it can be dry wood, or it can be animal waste. Everything which will undergo decomposition is known as detritus. Now see, there are actually 5 steps which will include 5 steps which will complete our decomposition process. Now the 5 steps are fragmentation, catabolism, leaching, humidification, and mineralization. Now please understand that you have to remember these 5 steps in a particular order, right? Now, if we start with the details of the process, see, this detritus which has to undergo decomposition, the first 3 steps, fragmentation, catabolism, and leaching, they will all occur simultaneously. Why? Because the detritus, that is the raw material, it is of different variety, right? So different processes occur on different types of detritus, right? For example, see, if the raw material has water soluble inorganic molecules, that does not need further degradation. It is already inorganic in nature. It is already water soluble, right? It will not undergo further degradation. What will happen? It will simply penetrate and precipitate into the deeper layers of the soil and become unavailable. Is that clear? So this is known as leaching. So it is the percolation, that means the seeping down of water is soluble in organic molecules to the deeper layers of soil, and gets precipitated and becomes unavailable. Very important. This part is known as leaching. Now, second, let's say the detritus consist of this some organic matter. So now this organic matter has to be degraded by bacteria and fungi, right? So there's a dead body. Now that will of course undergo what? That will undergo degradation by the action of these bacterial and fungal enzymes. This part is known as catabolism. We have already read complex molecules will be broken into the simple organic molecules, that is known as catabolism. And who are the main heroes here? It is the bacteria and the fungi. Now, talking about, there are other things. For example, let's say the dry leaves, the flowers. Now what will happen to that? Bacteria and fungi will not directly act on it. So there will be breakdown of this detritus into small particles first. Now who is going to break those big fragments into small fragments? There are some organisms in nature like these earthworm, which are known as detrivores. So their work is to break large particle into a smaller particle. Is that clear? So depending upon what type of detritus is. For example, it starts from here. We have large number of these leaves, dry leaves. So first of all, those leaves will be eaten by earthworm, broken down into smaller pieces. This is known as fragmentation. Then those smaller fragments will be broken down by the action of bacterial and fungal enzyme. That is catabolism. Is that clear? And then once the, So once the water soluble inorganic molecules have been formed, right, they will simply percolate into the deeper layers. This is known as leaching. But it is not necessary that it will always start from here. It depends what is there in the detritus, right? So these three steps will occur simultaneously. Are we clear till here? Yes. Now, once, just a second. So once in leaching, what happens? The precipitates become unavailable. The story is over. But what happens further? After catabolism, guys, the next step is humification. So humification is the formation of humus. So how does humus look like? Humus is always dark colored. It is amorphous, means it doesn't have a fixed structure. It is not crystalline, so amorphous. It is colloidal in nature. It is resistant to microbial action, and it undergoes very slow decomposition. So after catabolism, what happens? It undergoes humification, and in humification, humus is formed. Now when humus is formed, then the rate of decomposition becomes slower. Why? Because the microbes, not every microbe can degrade it. Now it is resistant to microbial action. There are very limited number of microbes which can now further degrade it. Is that clear? Now see, it will undergo slow decomposition. Very slow release of nutrients will occur. Because of the slow decomposition, minerals will come out of that humus very gradually, very slowly, and now this slow release is known as mineralization. Are we clear? But the point is, these minerals are present in the upper layer, so they are available to the producers, they are available to the plants, but the ones which have leached, they are not available. They are not available. Is this point clear? Is this point clear to all? So you must know all these points, all these 5 points about humus. How? It is dark colored, it is amorphous, it is colloidal, it is resistant, and it undergoes slow decomposition. Please tell me these points are clear. Is that clear? All right. Now, after this, we have to know what are the factors which are going to affect decomposition. So please understand that it is affected by multiple factors. First of all, the very composition of the detritus itself will matter. So for example, if the detritus contains high amount of chitin and lignin, if it is chitin and lignin rich, now these compounds don't undergo decomposition very quickly. So it will lead to slow decomposition, right? While if the detritus has nitrogen rich compounds, it is sugar rich, then it will undergo fast decomposition. Is that clear? Then talking about the availability of oxygen. Now remember, decomposition is an aerobic process. Now in case cancel, okay. Yes, please understand. So remember that decomposition is an aerobic process. If you remember the chapter of microbes in human welfare, and we were studying STP, sewage treatment plants, there also decomposition was occurring, yes. And what type of bacteria and fungi were involved? They were aerobic. That time also I told you decomposition is an aerobic process. So the more oxygen you provide, the rate of decomposition will become faster. So that is why, guys, if oxygen is available, this decomposition will occur faster. But anaerobisis means no availability of oxygen, that will slow down the rate of decomposition. Anaerobisis means no availability of oxygen, that will slow down the process. Then there are some other important factors, for example, temperature. Most important factor here is temperature and soil moisture. All these factors kept aside, the two most important factors are temperature and soil moisture. So if the temperature is high and the soil is moist, so there is moisture content, the soil is humid, this is the best condition for decomposition to occur, considering that it has availability of oxygen. Is that clear? Now the low temperature, that means let's say winters, the rate of decomposition will also decrease. Is this point clear to all? So these factors should be super clear. Now another very important aspect of this chapter, guys, is ecological pyramids. Very important topic, very important topic. What are these ecological pyramids? Do they really exist? No, it is just a graphical representation of the relationship between the organism in terms of, like, what type of relationship do all the organisms have in terms of energy, biomass, or number. Is that clear? For example, if we consider a specific food chain, my throat is gone. Now see, so for example, if there is a particular food chain, you can consider any food chain, right? In that food chain, the different organisms at different trophic levels, what is the number of producer as compared to the number of consumer, primary consumer or secondary consumer, right? So their relationship in terms of number, or what is the amount of energy at the producer level, or what is the amount of biomass at the producer level as compared to the above trophic levels. So this graphical representation is known as ecological pyramid. Is it clear? Now whenever we draw a pyramid, whatever be the shape, so depending upon these three factors, we have three types of pyramids: energy, number, and biomass. So whenever you are drawing a pyramid, okay, so you will see different types of relations, you will see different types of shapes. Like if it is this shape, we call it upright. We call this shape as upright, right? So here, so it becomes a proper triangle like this. This shape is called upright, right? And then if it is just the opposite, it is just the opposite like that. So this shape is known as inverted. This is known as inverted. Or there can be another very interesting shape. It is like this, like this. This shape also exists. Are you getting that? And then you can also get to see this type of shape. So the variety of ecosystems that you will study, you will get to see different types of shapes. But mostly we are going to deal with this upright and inverted shape only. Is that clear? Now the point is, whatever be the shape, the base always belongs to the base, always represents the producer. This is also producer, this is also producer, this is also producer, this is also producer. So remember, base will always represent the producer, while apex, tip, will always represent the top carnivore, and it can have more steps in between. Doesn't have to consist of just 3 steps. Is that clear? So the top will always consist of the apex will always consist of the top carnivore. Are we clear till here? Now let's talk about the limitations. So this is your NCERT, right? Page 214, and the last paragraph, it says that there are some limitations. There are certain things which this graphical representation cannot tell you. What are these limitations? Number 1, it does not take into account the same species belonging to 2 or the more trophic levels. I told you, we are not able to consider the food web. Why? Because it will actually complicate the process a lot. So we are following a very simple linear relationship of an organism with the other organism. Grass will only be eaten by the goat and goat will always become a dish for the human. But that's not always the case, right? So just like we are not able to consider food web, the ecological pyramids are also not considering the concept of food webs here. See, it does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more trophic levels, because for example, let's say goat. Goat is not always eaten. It sometimes dies a natural death. So it may become just the top level, right? And then, for example, it is not always eaten by human. It might be eaten by some secondary consumer, sorry, tertiary consumer, and then further that tertiary consumer is then eaten by the top carnivore. So there can be different. So it assumes a simple food chain. It does not accommodate a food web. And saprophytes, the saprophytes, which are the main heroes, without which the cycle of life cannot continue, I feel, right? Because they help in mineral recycling. They help in bringing everything at the same level. The nutrients that we have absorbed from the soil, they have returned to the soil because of these decomposers. And these saprophytes are not given any place in the ecological pyramids. Is this point clear? So these are the limitations. Now, let's first talk about the pyramid of energy. See, whatever be the food chain, the pyramid of energy for all the ecosystems, guys, for all the ecosystems it is always upright. Why? Because of 10% law that we have seen. Because energy, as the energy flows from one trophic level to another trophic level, it is only the 10% of the lower trophic level that goes to the upper trophic level, right? It is because of the 10% law, and we understand energy goes on decreasing. Is that clear? So this shape is always, this pyramid of energy is always upright. Then coming on to the pyramid of number. Now, depending upon the ecosystem again. See, if I talk about the grassland ecosystem and the ocean ecosystem, the shape would be upright. The shape would be upright. For example, if I say, let's take the ocean ecosystem, then algae, phytoplanktons, they are the producers. Then we have zooplanktons, then we'll have small fishes, and then we have large fishes. We are talking about the pyramid of number. So obviously, algae will be in the maximum number, zooplanktons will be lesser than that, smaller fishes will be even lesser in number, and large fishes will be minimum as compared to any of these, right? So as we are going to the top towards the apex, the number is reducing. Yes. So are we understanding why are we getting this shape? This is a producer, herbivore, primary carnivore, and large fish is the top carnivore. Is that clear? So the shape here is upright. Now, if I consider the grassland ecosystem, for example, grass eaten by goat, goat is eaten by lion, and so on, or man, or maybe man is also eaten by the lion. So this is the food chain. Is that clear to all? Now, there is another ecosystem. So be it grassland ecosystem or oceans ecosystem, the shape remains upright. Now, if I consider a tree ecosystem, a very beautiful and interesting ecosystem. See, there is one tree. Now, tree is a producer, right? But it is a home to many birds. And then birds have many parasites on their body. So parasites are eating birds, right? So every bird's body will have so many parasites on its body. So do you see, as we are going up the trophic level, the number is increasing. One tree, more birds, and maximum insects. Parasite, it could be insects or it could be parasites also. So the number is increasing. So what is the shape here? The shape here is inverted. The shape here is inverted. So we can get two types of shapes here. Is that clear? By the way, guys, after completing these marathons, I am going to have sessions where I'm going to read proper NCERT with you. And we are going to underline those important lines from where we have already got questions or we can expect questions. So don't worry about anything. Don't think that, okay, work is over and now let's still know. The work continues till 21st of June and even afterwards. till you reach your dream medical college, right? So stay tuned and make sure that you are attending all the sessions. Now, last not the least, we have pyramid of biomass. So if I talk about the grassland pyramid of biomass in grassland ecosystem, see, trees, herbs, primary carnivore or any top carnivore, the shape would be upright. Is that clear? Now, if I talk about the ocean ecosystem here, so we have algae, the producer, then we are talking about biomass. Just think about the body weight. If you can't get the concept of biomass in your head, just think about the body weight. So no matter, algae will be high. So when we were talking about ecosystem, in terms of number, see, algae is maximum, but no matter how big the number is, the weight will still be very less, right? So one fish and millions and trillions of algae can't compete with each other, isn't that so? So that is why algae in terms of biomass holds the bottom position. Is that clear? It has the minimum biomass. Then algae, then better than algae, the biomass of zooplanktons, then zooplanktons. As compared to zooplanktons, the smaller fishes will have more biomass, and then even if there is one shark or one whale, it will compete with all of them and leave them behind. So the biomass of large fish will be the maximum and so much exceeding than any of the lower trophic levels. Is that clear? So what is the kind of shape we are getting here? It is inverted. And then again, tree ecosystem. So in tree ecosystem, one tree, so in terms of number, see, in terms of number, there is one tree, more birds and maximum insects. But do you think if we compare the biomass, then many insects, maybe in thousands or lakhs, the lakhs of insects can compete with one tree in terms of biomass? No. So when we compare the biomass, then one tree, biomass of one tree will exceed the biomass of birds, and of course insects will be even less. So the shape that we get here is upright. Please tell me that these points are clear to all. Please tell me these points are clear to you all. So guys, you have to remember these things, and in case you ever tend to forget it, quickly think of that. You need to have a very clear vision, a clear image about the ecosystem, and you can easily conclude and deduce there. Is that clear to all? Please tell me, guys. So guys, with this, we complete the first chapter and a very basic, easy chapter of ecosystem. Is that clear? Now, coming on to the next, that is organism and population. Now, let's talk about different levels of biological classification. See, we generally think of this classification: cells, cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organ system, and organism. Now, this is the individual level of classification, right? But before individual level also, we have some non-living and non-cellular level of classification also. We can break down cell into molecules. Molecules can further be broken down into atoms, and atoms will be broken down into subatomic. But this forms the non-cellular or non-living. We are not dealing with non-living things here. Okay, we talk about this individual level of classification a lot, right? Now, we are talking about ecology. So here, guys, we are going to talk about the higher level of classification. Now see here, the ecological level of classification. See, the ecological level of classification starts with population. So organisms, all the organisms of same species in a specific area, they form population. So read again, what did I say? It is a group of organisms of same species and the area is also specified. Human population. Random? It makes no sense. Human population of Punjab or of Karnataka or of India or North India. So we have to specify the area that you are considering. That forms a population. Then in that area, it is not only one type of species which are living, right? So whichever area you are staying, you do see other species also living with you, right? So what is community? So different populations, that means of different species, of course. So group of different populations in a specific area and which are interacting with each other. So you interact with many other organisms. You interact with trees, with plants, with other animals, right? So you form a community there. Then it is not only the living factors that we are interacting with. We are also interacting with the non-living factors. So the living factors and the non-living factors which interact with each other and form a system which is known as ecosystem, right? And many ecosystems, they're clubbed together to form a biosphere where life exists. So all the ecosystem where life exists, they're combined, they are collectively known as biosphere. Are these points clear? So I hope you understand that there are different levels of classification in this. Now coming on to population. So the main chapter is organism and population. So talking about population. So what is population? As I told you, it is a group of organisms of same species in a particular area. So what are the different aspects of population that we are going to discuss in this chapter? We are going to talk about the population characters, population attributes. Then we'll talk about the population growth and their different ways. Then we are going to talk about life history variations, and finally the population interaction, the most important topic. But others can also not be ignored. Is that clear? And even this population growth is very, very important. Now see here, what are the population attributes? So these are the population attributes. Attributes means features. Why are we considering here? Because these characters, these features are not shown by an individual. That is why in the very beginning, I have told you that levels of organization occur at different, these organizations, they occur at different levels. So organism will not show those characters which a population will. And what are those characters? Birth rate or natality, death rate or mortality, then immigration, emigration, sex ratio, population density, and then age pyramids. These are the 7 population attributes that are only shown by this group of species in a specific area belonging to the same species. Is this clear? So what are the attributes? First of all, you should be very, very clear about these points. Which of these are population attributes? Is that clear to all? Right? All right. Now, let's discuss these population attributes. Yeah. So this is your NCERT. So the first population attribute is natality. Natality means birth rate. You've already read about it in the chapter of reproductive health also. So what is natality or birth rate? It is the number of new births as compared to the original population. Yeah. So see, what does NCERT say? It is a number of births number of births during a given period that are added to the initial density. So what is the formula here? What is the formula of birth rate? So birth rate is equal to new birth upon original population. Yes? So can you do these numericals, simple numericals? Let's say the lotus population in the lake initially was 20 and by the end of the year it became 40. What is the birth rate? So how many new births have occurred from 20 to 40? 20. What was the initial? It was 20. So the birth rate is 1. That means 100%. Right? Now mortality is the number of deaths in the population as compared to it is always after the initial population, the original population. Then what is immigration? Immigration is when a set of individuals are entering a population. See, number of individuals of the same species come to the habitat from elsewhere during the period under consideration, right? It's not to and fro. They come and settle there. For example, if I have come from one state and settled down in a different state, I have migrated here, immigration to a new state. It can be at any level. Then emigration is the people moving out of that one population. Obviously, if there is immigration at one level, it is automatically emigration from some other level. Yes. Now, this formula is very, very important. See here. So, population density of an area. What are the factors which increase it? Which are the factors which will decrease it? So, all these positive factors that you see here. So, immigration is going to increase. Birth rate is going to increase, while emigration, moving out, that is going to decrease, and so is the mortality or the death rate. Is that clear? So this formula here, NT plus 1 is equal to NT. NT is the original population plus B plus I. B is the natality and I. So these together and these together. So these together will add, but you have to subtract the death and the emigration. This formula is very, very important. Is that clear? Now, another population attribute is sex ratio. So it is the number of females per 1000 males. Per 1000 males. And then age pyramid is the graphical representation of individuals of different age groups. So we can divide a population in broadly 3 different groups depending upon their ages. So we have pre-reproductive, those which have not entered their maturity or reproductive phase, then reproductive, and then the post-reproductive, those who are getting old now and they have lost their capability of reproduction, they are in the post-reproductive phase. Is it clear? So these graphs, these age pyramids are very, very important. So we have 3 types of populations. A population can be expanding, or it can be stable, or it can be declining. What do we understand by that? So, for example, in expanding population, guys, the pre-reproductive is maximum as compared to reproductive, and the post-reproductive are minimum. Do we see that as we are moving towards the post-reproductive phase, post-reproductive age group, the number is declining. So, in expanding, this is always maximum. This is maximum. Is that clear? So, base rep is very broad in this case. And what is the shape here? What is the type of shape here? This shape is known as triangular or pyramidal, right? Then talking about the stable population, do we see here the base and the middle are almost the same. So pre-reproductive and reproductive age groups are almost in the same number. So base and middle are same. Is that clear? So this is almost bell shape, and then we have declining. So this is stable, will give you bell shaped graph. And then declining. In declining, the pre is very less as compared to the reproductive, and even the post reproductive are less. So this shape is known as urn shape. This is known as urn shape. Are we clear? So why do we call it declining? See, these reproductive people, these are ultimately going to grow old, and the pre-reproductive age group individuals, they are very less in number. So even when they will enter this reproductive phase, they will not increase the population so much because they are themselves very few in number. So the overall, we will see the declining population. There are many countries which are facing the declining population, and now they are just letting the other countries, individuals enter their country, and they're giving so much benefits to them for migration, right? They're just welcoming them. Okay, come and live here. We'll give you quick and easy work permit also, and easy lifestyle also. So that is because of the declining population. Is that clear? All right, guys. Now, moving on to the growth model. So age, let's talk about this. So are these all points clear? These are the population attributes. We have discussed birth rate, we have seen the formula also, death rate, emigration, immigration, sex ratio, population density, as well as age pyramid. So population density is number of individuals in a given area, right? And what are the factors which increase or decrease the density? We have seen the formula as well. Now moving on to very important aspect, that is population growth. See, population growth can be positive as well as negative. If obviously birth rate is more than the death rate, then overall it is a positive growth. If more number of individuals are entering the population, that means immigration is more than emigration, then that also contributes to more or positive growth, right? But if the opposite conditions reside, that means deaths are more than births, so death rate is exceeding the birth rate, or emigration is exceeding the immigration, then it indicates the negative growth. Easy to understand? Yes, we have already discussed this formula. Now let's talk more about these growth models here. So the growth models. There are two types of growth models and I have compared both of them. One is logistic growth model and second is the exponential growth model. So first of all, let's see the graph here. So in logistic growth model, guys, we believe that resources are limited. If the resources are limited, then it will not always grow on increasing. So in limited availability of resources, we always get a sigmoid shape of curve. So see this S-shaped curve. S-shaped curve. This represents logistic one. This is more realistic model because obviously we don't have a never ending resource of resources. They are obviously going to deplete. So it is a more realistic model, a growth model. So the maximum amount, maximum capacity of nature to withstand the maximum limit of population, that is called the carrying capacity. So population can only be at maximum with the carrying capacity. Is that clear? Carrying capacity is indicated by K. So initially it is slow, then it becomes faster, and then it again slows down as we come towards the depletion of the resources, right? So A is the lag or the slow phase, B indicates the exponential or the log phase, and C always indicates the stationary or the constant or the plateau phase. So wherever you study the sigmoid phase, sigmoid curve, it always have these three components, right? Now, if we come on to exponential, exponential means resources are unlimited. So once they start, the organism will go on increasing in number. Why? Because the resources are not limited. So there is never ending availability of resources. So they are multiplying and the population just goes on increasing. So that is why I said logistic is more realistic, because this is not really the case. Or obviously these resources are not very unlimited. They will be depleted some or the other day. Are we getting that? So I hope you know that on the y-axis we have taken the population density and x-axis indicates the time. Are we clear? So this shape is known as J-shaped curve. So exponential gives you J-shaped and logistic gives you sigmoid shaped curve. Yes or no? Now coming on to the formula. See, in exponential growth model, guys, in exponential growth model, see, the population size is indicated by N, birth rate is indicated by B, death rate indicated by D. Now increase or decrease in the number is indicated by B minus D is R. So what is the formula here? It is dn by dt. If we take the differential, dn by dt is equal to Rn. So this is the formula of exponential. This is the formula of exponential. Do you see? This is J-shaped curve. This is J-shaped. So it represents exponential growth model. Exponential growth model, right? While here the blue shaped curve, which is sigmoid in shape, the formula is dn. Sorry, let's first stay at the exponential growth model. Let's talk a little bit more about it. Yeah. So see, R is very important, and these are the points. What does R represent? It represents the intrinsic rate of natural increase. Very important parameter for assessing the impacts of biotic and abiotic factors. Are these points clear? Are these points clear to all? All right. Are these points clear to everyone? Please tell me. Are these points clear to all? Right? All right. Guys, I am home alone today. So I have to take care of certain things. It's boring. You know? How many of you enjoy being home alone? I don't. You tell me your wish after the exam. Mercy. Mercy is going to be merciful on someone. So you can get your wishes fulfilled by Mercy. Guys, quickly tell your wishes to Mercy. He or she, I don't know, is going to fulfill all your dreams. So tell him the dream college and you will be there. So this is, I don't know what am I doing here. I should bring Mercy here in the room. And he's going to, I think it is he. Generally, these merciful things are done by. So, what is going on? Like, seriously? Yeah. Mercy, good. They'll surely be accepted. Wow. I don't know why I am taking these marathons. I should be bringing Mercy here. Anyways, guys, you guys are so funny. I hope life is merciful on people like you also. Anyways, we're so big hearted. Shut up and please concentrate. Come on. Okay, now we'll do this. So please understand this value of R, which represents the intrinsic rate of natural increase. Very important aspect. So this is generally asked, like very basic and simple direct question, that R represents what? So what is the value of R? For Norway rat, guys, the value is 0.015. You can get that. I don't trust NTA at all now. It can do anything. So it can give you this also in match of the following, although we have some better questions in the whole NCERT book, but it can ask you the value of Norway rat is 0.015. Floor beetle, it is 0.12, and for human population, guys, it is 0.02. 0.02. Is that clear? For Norway rat, it is 0.01. Just remember, this is 0.1 and this is 0.02. Is that clear? And this is J-shaped graph. This is the whole. And you must know, sorry, if I take the log of this value, so if we do the calculus, so see, NT is equal to N naught ERT. This is also the second formula for our exponential growth. So what is NT? It is the population density after certain time. N naught is the original, that means at time 0. R is the, I told you, intrinsic rate of natural increase, and E is of course the base of the natural logarithm, which is 2.71, the basic value. Now, as species grow exponentially, the under unlimited resources, conditions can reach enormous population densities in short time. Now, we are talking about the exponential. So, when there are unlimited resources, only then it can give you exponential growth model. Is that clear? Please tell me these points are clear to all. Yes, guys. The formula for exponential growth model is dn. This is for, sorry, this was exponential. Now we are going to talk about the logistic growth model. For logistic, guys, for logistic growth model, we have dn by dt is equal to rn k minus n upon k. So exponential when the resources are unlimited, right? And logistic when the resources are limited. Are these points clear? And I hope you are able to compare the formula and know all the formula, the values of R. Clear? Now, let's move on to, wait. So yes, we have discussed population attributes. We have talked about the population growth models. Now, next thing is life history variation. Now, this is quite interesting. See, let's read this part of NCERT. So, life history variations, what does it say? It says that populations evolve to maximum their reproductive fitness, also known as Darwinian fitness. What did Darwin say? What did Darwin say? Darwin said that the organism which is highest or maximum in their population in the environment is actually selected by nature. So basically it is he's talking about the reproductive fitness. So reproductive fitness is the Darwinian fitness, right? In the habitat in which they live. Under a particular set of selection pressures, organisms evolve towards the most efficient reproductive strategy. So the whole idea is to evolve that efficient reproductive strategy. Now, what is the efficient reproductive strategy? Now, that will differ from organism to organism. For example, see, what are these efficient reproductive strategies? Let's understand. For example, some organisms will breed only once in their lifetime. For example, Pacific salmon fish or bamboo. You must know these examples, right? For example, this, while there are others which breed many a times during their lifetime. For example, birds and mammals. You must know these examples. Is that clear? Then there are some organisms, some produce a large number of small sized offsprings. So many offsprings but in small size. For example, oysters and pelagic fishes. What are pelagic fishes? Which remain to the bottom, attached, bottom of the sea, attached to the rocks. They are pelagic. While there are others which produce a small number but of large sized offsprings. For example, birds and mammals. So here, can you get 4 different points in match the following? Please tell me. So which organisms reproduce only once in the lifetime? Pacific salmon and bamboo, right? Then which breed many a times? Birds, mammals, right? Then large number of small sized offsprings, oysters, pelagic fishes, right? Then small number of large sized organisms, like in our case, like in case of birds. Are these clear? So which is desirable for maximizing the fitness? So we are talking about efficient reproductive strategy, and we have seen 4 different cases. Now, which one out of these 4 will you say that this is the best and the desirable for maximizing the fitness? So ecologists don't have a direct answer. Ecologists suggest that life history traits of organisms have evolved in relation to the constraints. You cannot tag someone, okay, this one is better or that one is better. It depends upon how they have evolved, because there are certain constraints imposed by the biotic and abiotic components in their habitats. So all the organisms who have adapted a certain strategy, so all these strategies are best depending upon their own terms and conditions, considering their own biotic and abiotic factors in their habitat. So evolution of life history traits in different species is currently an important area of research conducted by ecologists, but there is no direct answer as of now. Please tell me these points are clear. Yes, please tell me these points are clear to all. Yes, please. Now, moving on to the last component, which is interactions, population interactions. So guys, we have basically 3 types of interactions, although the 2 types of interactions majorly exist, that is beneficial or detrimental. So beneficial interactions are where either both the species are benefited, or one is benefited at least and the other is not harmed. So it should be either positive, or it should be positive or 0. Is that clear? 0 means no effect, but at least not harmed. That is beneficial. And then we have detrimental. Detrimental, even if one is benefited, but there is the other who is getting harmed. So one is getting benefited at the cost of the other, that is detrimental, or we also call it negative. So detrimental is also known as negative interaction, beneficial is also known as positive interaction. You must clearly know the types of positive interactions. One is commensalism, that means one is benefited, other is neither harmed nor benefited, and then is mutualism, both are benefited. Clear? Then in detrimental we have 4: predation, parasitism, competition, and amensalism. In predation, one is benefited, other is harmed. Now usually the one which seeks the benefit is smaller in nature, smaller in size, and the larger one gets harmed. Sorry, I'm talking about the opposite. Sorry. In parasitism, that is in parasitism. In predation, the larger organism is benefited and the smaller one is harmed. While in parasitism, it is just the opposite. The smaller one gets the benefit and the larger one has to pay the price. Is that clear? And then in competition, guys, we can understand the competition. It is a negative interaction, and in amensalism, one is badly affected while the other is not harmed nor neither harmed nor benefited. Is that clear? So after understanding these different examples and types of interactions, let's talk more about, yeah, this table is very important. This table is very important. All right, let's first talk about commensalism. Let's first talk about commensalism. So as I've told you, commensalism, yes, in commensalism, one is benefited while the other is neither harmed nor benefited. So one benefits and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. Now we have to see the examples here. See the examples. For example, orchid growing as an epiphyte on the mango branch. This is example number 1. So what is an epiphyte? Epiphyte is a plant which grows on the other plant. So it just takes the space from the other organism but does not draw nourishment. So they are not going to harm them. So the space is available. So that is why they occupy that space. They use that space, but in return they will not harm the parent organism, the parent plant. So that is an epiphyte. So orchids grow on the mango branch as an epiphyte. So this is commensalism. Second example is barnacles growing on the back of the vale while neither mango tree or vale is harmed. Is that clear? So barnacles, these are some smaller organisms growing on the bark of the vale. So whatever the food is left over, it is eaten by barnacle. Then third example is cattle ergot and the grazing cattle. Cattle ergot is a bird. You might have seen that village site in books where the cattle are grazing in fields and there is a bird sitting at the back of the cattle. So that bird is the cattle ergot. So basically what happens while the grazing cattle are moving in the fields, they are loosening the soil by their feet, right? And when the soil is lost, the insects are exposed. Now those exposed insects will become the food for the ergot. Is that clear? So ergot gets benefited. The grazing cattle is not even harmed nor benefited, right? So next example is that of, see here, next example is interaction is sea anemone having stinging cells and the clownfish that lives amongst them. So clownfish gets the benefit and sea anemone is neither harmed nor benefited. This is example number 4. Now why does clownfish live amongst the sea anemone? Because sea anemone, coelenterata, stinging cells, remember? So stinging cells are, although for the protection of sea anemone, but clownfish has learned to live amongst that, right? So without touching the sea anemone, it can survive there and get itself protected. So it is protected by the predators. Is that clear? So these are the 4 examples of commensalism. Now moving on to the example of mutualism. See, so mutualism is positive. Both are benefited. In this, one is benefited, other is neither benefited nor harmed. Is that clear? So this is where both are benefited. Now in in mutualism, basically there are further 2 types of interactions. One is proto-cooperation, and the second is symbiosis. In symbiosis, see here, in proto-cooperation what happens? Proto-cooperation is like, you know, friends living together and they're mutually benefiting each other, but it doesn't matter if the other goes away, will be replaced, someone else will come in. So till they are staying together, they are benefiting each other. That is proto-cooperation. They are working together, they are helping each other out, right? That is proto-cooperation. But in symbiosis, they will not die without each other. But in symbiosis, there is so much of codependence on each other that if one dies, the other automatically dies. So this is like true love, symbiosis. Cannot live without you. And in proto-cooperation, people move on. That is proto-cooperation, right? So that is, and this is like very, very dependent, codependent. For example, lichens, for example, mycorrhiza. We have read in lichens, if the fungal partner dies, the algae automatically dies, and the vice versa. Is that clear? So it is very, very obligate. So what is the difference? This is facultative, can survive without each other, but in symbiosis, they cannot survive without each other. This is obligatory. Clear to all? So lichens represent the ultimate mutualistic relationship, but which kind of obligatory? Between fungus and the photosynthesizing algae. And second is mycorrhiza, between the fungus and the roots of the higher plants. We have discussed this already. Then other examples. So there are different examples. Number one is lichens. Number two, mycorrhiza. Then between plants and their pollinators. See, then there are examples of plants and the pollinators. For example, now you must know that plant species and pollinators are also very specific. They are also very specific. For example, fig and the wasp. So fig tree is dependent on wasp. That is example number one. Then we have second, so fig and the wasp. Then we also have this yucca. Yucca plant. We have talked about yucca plant in the chapter of sexual, or we will discuss it today. Yucca plant, right? And all the plant species have their own specific pollinators. Is that clear? Please tell me that these points are clear. And now let me tell you more about them in detail. See, let's talk about these examples. So the mutually beneficial system should also be safeguarded. This is not the point. Okay, here, this is the example. The female wasp uses the fruit only as an oviposition, that is egg laying site. So this is where we are talking about fig and the wasp. Fig and the wasp. This is example number one, right? So what is the benefit for the wasp? It uses it as an oviposition, egg laying site. And what is the benefit to the fig? So but uses the developing seeds within the fruit for nourishment for the larva. And then what is the benefit to the wasp also? The wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence while searching for the suitable egg laying site. Is that clear? And in return causes pollination. So fig offers the wasp some of the developing seeds as a food for the developing wasp larva. So this is the example of their mutualistic interaction. This is fig and the wasp. Second example, guys, belongs to, see here, second example is that of Mediterranean orchid, that is Ophrys, and the bee. This is second example. Now there is Mediterranean orchid Ophrys. Now it looks very similar to to one of the bees. So what happens? The male bee will pseudo-copulate with the Ophrys, thinking of it as his own female, right? So this phenomena is known as sexual deceit. Deceit means cheating. So basically here Ophrys is cheating, right? It is playing like it is a female, but it is not the female. So male deposits the sperms here, but actually it is pseudo copulation. So male bee is attracted to what it perceives as a female. It pseudo copulates and dusts and while during that pseudo copulation, what will happen? The pollen grains are dusted on the flower, and the same bee pseudo-copulates with the other and transfers the pollens to the other. So this is the second example. Please tell me that these points are clear to you all. So these are the examples. Now from this chapter, every line is very important. Is it clear? All right, guys. So next concept is that of predation. Next interaction is predation. So let's read these lines. They're very important. What is predation? I told you. In predation, one is benefited, other is harmed. And usually the one who is benefited is the predator. Benefited one is the predator, usually bigger in size, and the one who is harmed is the prey and usually smaller in size, right? So usually when we think about prey and the predator, the first image that strikes our mind is that of a lion running after a tiger, running after a deer. But let's realize we all are predators. So every organism is eating some other organism, be it a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian. If we are vegetarians, we are eating the plants. Plants are living beings, right? And we are also predators. So every one trophic level, the upper trophic level, is the predator on the lower trophic level. Is that clear? So that's how simple this prey and predator relationship is. So one which is eaten is the prey. So if I'm a vegetarian, I am the predator, and the vegetables and all the vegetarian diet that I'm taking, that is prey. Plants are prey to me. And if I'm a non-vegetarian, still some organism is becoming a prey to my desire, right? Now, what would happen to all the energy fixed by the autotrophic organisms? So nature's way of transferring to higher trophic levels the energy fixed by the plants. Very important line. So this is the topmost function of predation in our nature. It helps in transferring the energy from one trophic level to another trophic level. So for example, see tiger and the deer, of course, this is what we have already discussed. Sparrow eating any seed, that is also predator and the prey relationship. So all the herbivores are predators, right? Now, besides acting as conduits means sources for energy transfer across the trophic levels, they keep, this is one, conduits of energy transfer. Second benefit, second significance is they keep the prey population under control. Then prey species could achieve very high population and cause ecosystem instability. So when certain exotic species are introduced, they become invasive and start spreading fast because the invaded land does not have its own natural predators. So why are invasive species able to expand so quickly? Because of the absence of natural predators. So that is why we need predators. If predators are there, then these exotic species cannot expand themselves, cannot be invasive. Is that clear? For example, prickly pear cactus introduced into Australia in early 1920s spread rapidly to millions of hectares. Finally, the invasive cactus was brought under control by cactus feeding predator. This is a biocontrol, example of biocontrol agent. You're controlling one organism with another organism without spraying any chemical, pesticide or something, right? So we introduced these predators, these moths, and these moths fed on that opuntia, on that cactus. So cactus was gone. Another significance of predation is that they are biological control methods. That's what I just told you, based on the ability of the predator. Is that clear? Now, to regulate the prey population, predators also help in maintaining the species diversity by reducing the intensity of competition and among competing prey species. Like example, in rocky intertidal communities of American Pacific coast, the starfish pisaster, an important predator, removed around 10 species of invertebrates, became extinct within that year. So that is the fifth significance, that it is important for maintaining or reducing the competition. Is that clear? For example, so this is already a PYQ, that starfish pisaster fed on, present in American Pacific coast. It fed on these invertebrates. So when we introduced this starfish pisaster, it fed on these invertebrates. What would have happened if pisaster would not be there? What would have happened? See, generally when we think of predation, we think, oh, predator is a bad guy and preys are those bichara guys which have been eaten. But no, if there would not be a predator, these preys, these lower invertebrates, they would also compete amongst themselves and eradicate each other. So to reduce the competition, this is also important. So we need top class predators in the society. Is that clear? Because of interspecific competition. So it also reduces the specific competition. Is that clear? For example, now these lines are also very, very important. See, predator is too efficient and never overexploits the prey. Because if prey will be reduced, the predator will die of hunger. So it never over preys. It never over hunts. Is that clear? It's very prudent. When the prey becomes extinct, the predator will also become extinct. This is the reason why predators in nature are prudent. Prudent means wise. So both predators and prey have evolved certain mechanisms to make sure that predators have made sure that they are able to predate upon, and preys have made sure that they are not always eaten away. So for example, see, prey species have evolved certain defense mechanisms. Prey species have evolved certain defense mechanisms to lessen the impact of predation. For example, cryptically colored camouflage. Cryptically colored means which help them to hide, which is also known as camouflage, by some insects and frogs to avoid being detected. This is one. So camouflage is first example, first mechanism, first device to escape predation. Second is some organisms are poisonous and not eaten by the prey. For example, monarch butterfly. Monarch butterfly is very distasteful. So the predator doesn't like to eat monarch butterfly. And you know, monarch butterfly has absorbed these, it has imbibed this distastefulness by eating some, eating this chemical in the caterpillar stage. So monarch butterfly ate this poisonous weed, because of which it acquired this distastefulness. So this distastefulness is its way of escaping from predation. So this is the second example. Then third, herbivores are also predators, right? So they are 25% of all insects are phytophagous. This line is important. So now, how do plants protect themselves from getting eaten? See here. So for example, they have thorns. So for example, plants have thorns, like in acacia and cactus. They are the most common morphological means. Fourth, some of them produce and store chemicals which, if eaten, will kill the organism. That is 5. That is 4. Clear? And then, for example, calotropis. Calotropis is, you will never see grazing animals feeding on calotropis, because calotropis produces highly poisonous cardiac glycosides. If eaten, they will be dead. It will cause sudden cardiac arrest. These cardiac glycosides, they cause cardiac arrest. So you will never see these grazing organisms eating calotropis. Is it clear? Then fifth, there are other chemicals also. For example, nicotine, caffeine, quinine, strychnine, and opium. Do you know, it is said that even donkey never feeds on tobacco plantation. Humans do. So nicotine is one chemical present in, of course, tobacco, which is for their own protection, so that they are not eaten by animals. But humans are wise enough to know that they can be smoked. So that is the irony. See here. And then, so this is all about predation. Okay. Now coming on to force in the organic evolution, interspecific competition. These are very important lines. So closely related species compete for the same resources that are limiting. Now there will be four very important lines here. Please take notice. Is that clear? See, and closely related species compete for the same resources that are limiting. So totally unrelated species could also compete for the same resource. For example, American lakes visiting flamingos are birds, and resident fishes, they have common food which is called zooplankton, right? So it's not always that intraspecific competition is very fierce, because obviously intraspecific is fierce because they have to feed on the same thing, they want the same resource. but sometimes totally unrelated species can also have a very fierce competition because they are feeding on this common food. Is that clear? Now, secondly, resources need not be limiting for competition. Generally, what do we say? The competition arises when there are limited resources. No, it is not necessary. For example, in interference competition, see, this is very important. Interference competition, the feeding efficiency of one species might be reduced due to the interfering and inhibitory presence of the other. Just mere presence of someone can reduce the feeding efficiency. For example, it happens with me also. If somebody is eating from my plate, my speed of eating reduces. I don't know. It's very, it just happens. So, right, so that is interference competition. So, even if resources, food and space are abundant, so the example is given here. For example, the abundant tortoise in Galapagos Islands became extinct within a decade after goats were introduced on the island, apparently due to the greater browsing efficiency of the goat. Oh, probably the person I'm eating within the plate eats faster than me. So that can happen. Another example of interference competition is in Connell's elegant field experiment showed that on rocky coast of Scotland, the larger and competitively superior barnacle Balanus dominates the intertidal area and excludes the smaller barnacle, that is Chathamlus, from that zone. Is that clear? Now, then there is this definition of competition given here. It is a process in which the fitness of one species measured in terms of intrinsic rate is significantly lower in the presence of another species. That's how competition is defined. You have to learn these lines word by word. This chapter is very tricky, right? Now see, what is competition release? So there are different phenomena we are studying here. One is interference competition. Second, I'm going to talk about is interference release. Competitive release. So what is competitive release? You remove that organism who was causing interference. That is competitive release. So a species whose distribution is restricted in the small geographical area because of the presence of the competitively superior one, and it is found to expand its distributional range dramatically when competing species is experimentally removed. So you remove this competitively superior barnacle and Chathamlus will again expand in its population. Is that clear? So this is the example. So similarly here, abundant tortoise which reduced in population and was almost at the verge of getting extinct. They removed these goats, see? So they removed these goats and the level of, population of tortoise started restoring. This is called competitive release. Another phenomena is Gauss competitive exclusion principle. Of course, it is not a rule, remember that. Gauss gave this idea that two closely related species who are competing for the same resource cannot coexist indefinitely. Why? Because they are competing for the same resource. So what will happen? The competitively inferior one will be able to eliminate eventually. But sadly, probably this is happening with us. So out of the two, one is going to stay. The one who is superior, who is better prepared for the example. So Gauss exclusion principle is getting applied here at least. So this may be true if resources are limited. Why this is true? Why some students will be eliminated? Because we have very limited number of seats. Yes, so but not otherwise. Otherwise it is not a rule. I've told you. It's not that those who will not be selected will be just failures. No, they'll have other resources to depend on, right? Now see, while they do not rule out the occurrence of interspecific competition, they point out that species facing competition might evolve mechanisms that promote coexistence rather than exclusion. So that is why I told you Gauss competitive principle is not a rule, because in nature, even though the resources are limited and there are different species which want the same food, still they have evolved certain mechanisms so that they can reduce competition and they are not always living under the pressure of competition. What is this known as? This is called resource partitioning, another concept. So if two species compete for the same resource, they could avoid competition by choosing, for example, what are the different ways of resource partitioning? Number one, choosing different times for feeding, different foraging patterns. Is it clear? Also, we have seen certain organisms marking their territory. That is also a way of resource partitioning. Is that clear? For example, MacArthur showed that 5 closely related species of warblers living in the same tree were able to avoid competition and coexist due to behavioral differences in their foraging patterns. Just talked about it. So this is resource partitioning. Are we clear? Then we come on to parasitism. Okay. Please tell me these points are clear. Ek second. Is that clear? Yes, guys. Is that clear? All right. So that was it. And okay. So let's talk about these things. So we have talked about population. We have not discussed about organisms. So there are two aspects of this chapter. Let's talk about the abiotic factors also. Yes. So see, the factors which lead to variations in different habitats. These are some important pointers not given in the new NCERTs, but I want you to know. So there are some physiochemical factors or abiotic factors, which are temperature, water, light, and soil. And the biotic ones are pathogens, parasites, predators, and competitors. Now, what is niche, guys? Niche is the distinct functional role of organism in the ecological system. Is it clear? Now, the abiotic factors that we have talked. First is temperature, water, light, and soil. Let's discuss temperature here. So we see that temperature is not the same all over the world, all parts of Earth, right? At equator, the temperature can be above 50 degrees Celsius, while at poles, it can be less than 0 degrees Celsius. We see variations because of seasons also. We see variations because of altitude also, lower temperature at the mountains and higher at the plains. And we also see the deep sea hydrothermal vents can have temperature above 100 degrees Celsius also. Is it clear? Now there are two types of organisms. See this. Stenothermal organisms which can tolerate a very small range of temperature. So that is stenothermals. Now see, so stenothermal means, they can tolerate only narrow range of temperature. Tolerate narrow range of temperature. Is that clear? While eurythermals like us, we can live anywhere. We can tolerate wide range of temperature. Tolerate wide range of temperature. Is that clear? So this is being eurythermal. Then talking about water, when we talk about water comes the concept of salinity. That means the amount of salt, right? Again, similarly we have stenohaline, those organisms which can tolerate only which can tolerate only narrow range of saline conditions. Little bit fluctuations they can handle, but the moment there are wide fluctuations, they will not be able to survive. And similarly, URI word is for wide. So they can survive wide range of differences in the saline conditions. So there are different types of water. We have inland water where the level of salt, where the saline conditions is less than 5 parts per trillion. okay, and then marine water 30 to 35, and then hypersaline lagoons have above 100 value. Is that clear? So then there are some responses towards these abiotic factors. So there are different types of responses, very important. Some organisms regulate while others conform, while others can migrate, and there are few which will undergo suspension of their, which will suspend their activities. Is that clear? So when is regulation and conformation done? See here. So when unfavorable conditions are permanent, then there are certain organisms which can regulate or they become conformers. So they conform. What happens in conformation, we'll see. While if the unfavorable conditions are temporary, then either they will change their place, they will migrate, or they will suspend. For example, hibernation. Let's discuss this. See, on the basis of their response, there are three types of organisms: regulators, partial regulators, and conformers. Now see this graph. This is the internal condition and this is the external level. So what happens here? As the external level is changing, how the internal conditions are going to fluctuate. Talking about the regulators. So regulators, see, there are three types of organisms. Regulators are those organisms, no matter how the external level conditions change, no matter how these external level or conditions fluctuate, but their internal level conditions will remain the same. They are not going to fluctuate. Internal conditions will remain at the same point, and this is known as homeostasis. They maintain constant internal environment. Is that clear? Then we have conformers. Let's talk more about regulators. See, they maintain homeostasis, constant internal environment, for example, constant temperature, constant internal osmolarity. Thermoregulation, your hypothalamus works in that direction. Osmoregulation, your kidney is there, your liver is there, right? So osmoregulation, kidney plays a very important role. Is that clear? Now, we have conformers. So see the graph of conformers. As the external conditions are changing, the internal conditions are also changing. Are you see? Do you see? So that is why you get this straight line. So conformers, they cannot maintain homeostasis. So internal environment will fluctuate along with the external environment. Now you must think, why is it so that some organisms are able to regulate while others are conformers? So what is the reason behind that? And as a matter of fact, majority of the organisms are conformers. Plants are always conformers. They can't regulate. Why? Why very few organisms are regulators? Because regulation, be it thermoregulation or osmoregulation, it is a high energy demanding process. To maintain your body temperature, to maintain homeostasis, your energy is always and constantly getting used, and every organism cannot afford that much energy expenditure. So that is why very few organisms are regulators, for example, birds, mammals. Okay, now that was conformer. While there is a third category known as partial regulators. What are partial regulators? See, in partial regulators, what will happen? As the external level changes, the internal will also change, but only to a certain point, after which even if the external conditions change, the internal will not change, it will become parallel. So internal condition changes with external only up to a certain limit, after which it becomes constant. So we have three different types of organisms. Is that clear? Now talking about the four types of responses. See, we have regulation, regulate, conform, migrate, or suspend. Regulation means maintain internal constant conditions. Now for this homeostasis, we have some morphological adaptations, we have anatomical adaptations, physiological and behavioral adaptations. We'll talk about those adaptations in a while. But they will be able to maintain the fixed internal conditions, constant internal environment, that is homeostasis. Now this is shown by, I told you, very few organisms, birds, mammals, very few vertebrates and very few invertebrates. The processes are thermoregulation, they are all conformers. So if the external environment changes, the internal environment will also fluctuate. Is that clear? Then there are few, I told you, there are few who will just change their place as far as the unfavorable condition arises. They will change their place because they understand that this unfavorable condition is temporary. So moves away temporarily from the stressful habitat to a more hospitable, means more welcoming environment. Organism returns when the unfavorable conditions are gone. So we have heard about many migratory birds, right? So they all show this phenomena. Now, talking about suspension. So this is a stage of suspended development and suspended metabolism to survive the unfavorable conditions. So again, but see, these unfavorable conditions are temporary. I told you, these responses occur when unfavorable conditions are temporary. See, migration is also not shown by all organisms, cannot be shown. Every organism cannot just fly to such large distances. So that is also very energy consuming. So there are organisms which will just suspend their development. They'll just sit back. They'll just slow down their body process. Is that clear? For example, we suspended our movements in COVID, right? We just took a corner. Then stage of dormancy. Mechanisms involved: seed formation in higher plants, hibernation, winter sleep, right? Estivation, summer sleep, diapause. This is shown by zooplankton. Now you will get this in you will get this in match the following easily. Seed formation, higher plants. What are the different ways of suspending their metabolic and developmental activities? These points are clear. Are these points clear to all? Right? So these are the 4 different responses. And in regulation, guys, the mechanisms involved for thermoregulation, we know it is sweating, vasodilation, shivering, vasoconstriction, and eating fat-rich food. This is all controlled by our hypothalamus. Now, last not the least, let's talk about adaptations. See here. So what is adaptation? Adaptation is an attribute of organism. Attribute means feature of organism which enables it to survive and reproduce. Why do we adapt? Because we want to survive. If we don't want to survive and the conditions are changing, we'll be eliminated if we don't adapt. So basically, it is a response to the changing environment. Yes, there are 3 types of adaptations. They can be on the morphological level, physiological means functional level, and behavioral level. Is that clear? For example, desert plants. They have thick cuticles, sunken stomata, multi-layered epidermis, leaves reduced to spines, and stem flattens to photosynthesize, right? All these are morphological adaptations. Then what are the physiological adaptations shown by desert plants? They have CAM, cressulacin acid metabolism pathway, CAM pathway, in which stomata will open during the night and close during the day. And then, so desert plants show morphological and physiological adaptations in order to survive in low water conditions. Is that clear? Then, talking about mammals in higher altitude, in colder areas, right? So, and colder areas also, and as you go higher the altitude, the availability of oxygen also reduces. So see, how do they adapt? See, for low oxygen availability, they will increase their RBC count, they will increase their breathing rate, then they will decrease the so this will decrease the binding capacity of hemoglobin. Why do they decrease the binding capacity? Because they want that oxygen should be released to the tissues quickly, right? So this is a physiological adaptation. Also, mammals in colder climate, that was for low oxygen conditions. Now, for low temperature in cold climate, they have shown these adaptations. For example, we have Allen's rule. What does Allen rule say? The shorter ears and limbs to minimize the heat loss. Shorter extremities, because these extremities are one sources from where heat is lost, right? So if we are living in the colder climate, the organism will have shorter extremities. This is called Allen's rule. Second is blubber. For example, seen in aquatic mammals like seal and dolphin, they have thick subcutaneous fat layer. So it is a thick fat layer below the skin, subcutaneous. This is called blubber, right? These are all morphological adaptation. Now let's talk about the physiological adaptation. It is seen in case of fishes of Antarctic waters, like very extremely cold conditions. So these fishes, they release some freezing proteins which produce ice around them, and ice, as we know, is a bad conductor. Then some produce anti-freezing proteins within their blood so that the blood doesn't freeze. And then kangaroo rat. Kangaroo rat shows adaptation for water scarcity. So how it accumulates fat and oxidizes that fat to produce water. So this does not produce urine. So this is all done in order to conserve water, right? It is not drinking water, water is not available. Then what does it do? Whatever it eats, it metabolically gets converted into fat. And we must know that body will break down fat to produce water. So this is the mechanism how kangaroo rat is deriving water within the body. And second, it is not producing urine, does not produce urine at all. So stores that waste. Is that clear to all? Please tell me, guys, these points are clear to all. So these are different types of adaptations, right? Also, we see some adaptations in desert lizard, like behavioral adaptation. It basks in sun and absorbs heat when it is cold, and it moves into the shade when it is hot. It does not have the ability to show physiological adaptation, could not adapt physiologically, could not bring changes in the body functions. So it has shown behavioral adaptation. So simple as that, guys. If you want to survive, times are changing, conditions are changing, you have to adapt. Adaptation is just a response towards survival. So those who will not adapt will not survive, right? Now, arc bacteria and thermoacidophils, how do they survive in such high temperature? So they have thermostable enzymes which can function at high temperatures, and they are found in hot water springs and hydrothermal. So this is a physiological adaptation. Are these points clear to all? Is that clear? Please tell me. Now moving on to the third chapter, which is biodiversity and conservation. Very important chapter. See, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity is the variety of flora and fauna. So term was popularized by Edward Wilson, who is a sociobiologist. There are three different types of biodiversity. One is genetic, then species, and ecological. What is genetic biodiversity? It is when one species have many sub-varieties. So single species but many sub-varieties, it is diversity at the genetic level. For example, Rauwolfia vomitoria. It produces this chemical called reserpine. But you will see that in Himalayas, we have so many different types of Rauwolfia that they all have different potency. They produce reserpine of different potency. So Rauwolfia is the same, but the potency of reserpine differs because of some genetic diversity here. Then similarly, rice, it has 50,000 strains in India itself. Mango has 1,000 varieties in India itself. This is all genetic diversity. Talking about species, specific diversity means different types of species. So we have more different type of species in Western Ghats as compared to Eastern Ghats. Equatorial regions have higher biodiversity at specific level, more different species in equatorial region than temperate. Then temperate will still have more as compared to the polar regions. So that is specific. And then ecological biodiversity means variety in different types of ecosystems, right? For example, India has so many different type of ecosystem. We have desert, alpines, rainforest, mangroves, coral reef, wetlands, and estuaries, while the tundra and alpine ecosystems exist in Scandinavian countries, more towards the poles, right? So as you go away from equator, these ecological diversities will also reduce. Is that clear? So these are the types of biodiversity. Is that clear? Now, how many species are present on Earth? See, according to IUCN, what is the total number of plants and animal species described, guys? Yes, please. Quickly, let me know. Quickly, let me know. What is the total number of plants and animals described? Wait. What is the total number of plants and animal species described? Yes. So you have to This is your homework. You have to write down this data for 3 different things. Total number of plants and animals described according to IUCN, you have to learn this. Extreme estimate was something between 20 to 50 million, and you have to find out the total estimate of species according to Robert May. According to Robert May. So find out these data. Is that clear? Very, very important. Then out of total number of species, guys, that whatever the total estimate is, 70% are animals. So 7 out of 10 animals, and 70% are animals, and out of that 70%, that means if 10 are animals, 7 are insects. So out of the total species, 70% are animals, and out of that 70% animals, 70% are insects. 7 out of 10 is 70%. So not more than 22% are plants. And when we say plants, now this includes algae, it includes fungi, it includes bryophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, everything. So we are including everything in that 22%. So fungi is more than fishes and amphibians, then reptiles and mammals. Is that clear? So that is the data. So there are few graphs given, pie graphs given. Please make sure that you learn them for the purpose of identification. Those diagrams are important. Is that clear? See, this is what I'm talking about. You have to learn them for the labeling purpose. Let's see this here. Let's see this here. So in vertebrates, the maximum, as I told you, 70% are insects. Second number, other animal groups. This one, animal groups. Then third, mollusca, and fourth is crustaceans. Is that clear? Then here in vertebrates, maximum fishes, second number goes to birds, third number goes to reptiles, fourth number goes to amphibians and mammals. Amphibians and mammals almost hold the same position, but you should be able to label them properly. If I go in the clockwise form, then you have to remember FMBRA. Is that clear? So remember this for the clockwise turn, and for this, if we start from insects, IMCO. So go in the clockwise way, and this starting with the maximum, that is fungi, mosses, ferns, angiosperms, and then lichens and algae. FM Phala. Is that clear? So you must know the decreasing order. You should be able to identify them as well. This is representing different global biodiversity. Clear to all? Now, number of species in India. So see, India occupies 2.4% of the total land area, but 1/12 of the mega diversity and forms one of the mega diversity countries of the world, right? But it holds only, it occupies only 2.4 of the total land area, but occupies 8.1% of the global species. Lesser area and more when it comes to the percentage in global species. Is that clear? Then what is the number of plants? What is the number of animals? 22% recorded so far, yet to be discovered, and yet to be discovered in plants and animals. Clear? Then patterns of biodiversity. So we have seen that there are two different patterns, one with respect to latitudes and second is with respect to area. If we talk about the latitudinal gradient, then biodiversity will decrease. It will decrease as we go from equator to poles. So you go from equator to poles, like on the upward side as well as on the lower side, it will go on decreasing. Is that clear? So we have maximum biodiversity in the equatorial or the tropical region, and it goes on decreasing polewards, right? Why? The point is why? Now see here. So there are different reasons. Why? What are the reasons why it decreases polewards? You must know the reasons here. There are 4 reasons, guys. Number 1, let's read it here. See, so evolutionary time for species diversity. Okay, let's read. First, tropical environments, unlike temperates, are less seasonal, so more constant and predictable, and constant environments promote niche specialization. This is the first. Second, there is more solar energy available in tropics, which contributes to higher productivity. Is that clear? And third, they've been constant environment, right? And it has got more time for specification. So these are the three reasons. One, evolutionary time for species diversification, then less seasonal and more solar energy availability. These are the three reasons for more diversity towards the equator and less towards the poles. Is that clear? Three reasons you must remember. Now second was species area relationship, and let's understand what does this say. So species area relationship was understood by a German naturalist and geographer. His name is Alexander von Humboldt. So this topic is also quite important. We've already got questions from this topic. See here. So what did he observe? He observed that within a region, the species area increased with increasing the explored area, but only up to a limit. So you go on increasing the area and the number of species will also go on increasing. Quite obvious, right? But this does not happen endlessly. After a while, it will decrease also. See, first, as you increase the area, the species area richness is also increasing, but then it decreases. But then it goes, then it doesn't increase that far. Is that clear? So you get a rectangular hyperbola here. What is the formula here? S is equal to CA raised to power Z. What is Z? Z is the slope of the line or the regression coefficient. If I take log of this, we get a straight line. The log of this gives us a straight line. So log of S is equal to log C plus Z log A. So this is the formula. So what does each value indicate? S is the species richness, A is the area, C is the y-intercept. You must know these values. Is that clear? Now ecologists, see, Z is the slope. This value of Z will differ. First of all, this line is important. Z line in the range of 0.1 to 0.02. It is regardless of any taxonomic group or the region. Very important line. This is a PYQ. Is that clear? Then entire continent, the line has to be much steeper. The value will be between 0.6 to 1.2. And for frugivorous, fruit-eating birds and mammals in the tropical, the value is 1.15. So what do you understand by steeper slope? The steeper slope means, so when will you get a steeper slope? You will get a steeper slope means you increase little area and the species richness increases tremendously. Is that clear? So the more it goes on the left hand side means less increase in area but more increase in the biodiversity. Are these points clear to all? Then what is the importance of species diversity to the ecosystem? So this has been explained by different scientists in different ways. First of all, let's talk about the contribution of David Tillman. So he did this outdoor plot experiment. He said plots with more species showed less year-to-year variation in the total biomass. So this is what he said. So increased biodiversity contributes to higher productivity. Means the plots or any area which will have more biodiversity will have less fluctuation or constant productivity here. And then what about Paul Ehrlich? He was a Stanford ecologist and did this rivet-popper hypothesis. So according to this rivet-popper hypothesis, what is the rivet here? Rivets are species. Airplane represents the ecosystem. So flight safety represents the proper functioning of the ecosystem, and rivet popping means extinction of the species. So what does Paul Ehrlich say? He says that initially when you pop out the rivets, it does not matter. The plane stability is not compromised. But if you go on popping out the rivets, considering that it doesn't matter, every rivet is not that important, right? So how will one rivet matter so much? If you keep on popping out the rivets, considering that view or holding that view, what will happen? At one point of time, it is going to matter. And also, it is important which rivet are you popping out, right? If you are taking out rivets from the wings, now that every rivet matters a lot. Right. So this is Paul Ehrlich's idea, rivet popper hypothesis. You must know that What has each component been compared to? Rivet has been compared to species, airplane to the ecosystem, flight safety to the proper functioning, and rivet popping to the extinction of species. Then according to ecologists, communities with more species are more stable. So what are the features of a stable community? They do not show much variation. They do not show much variation in productivity year after year. So productivity, not much variation. They are resistant and resilient to occasional disturbances. Resistant means either the disturbances don't happen. Resilient means even if they happen, they will make a comeback quickly. And then resistant to the alien species invasion. So alien species are not entertained and they are not able to flourish. Is that clear? So guys, this is rivet popper hypothesis, already discussed. Then loss of biodiversity. Now see, according to IUCN, they have a red list. The data goes back to 2004. 784 species have become extinct, out of which these are vertebrates, 359 are invertebrates, and 87 of them are plant species. And this is the number for extinction in last 500 years. Now, very, very important. What are the 4 causes of biodiversity loss? The 4 causes are collectively known as evil quartet. Every year you are getting a question from this topic. Every year. Now, habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, alien species invasion, and co-extinction, right? So this is the most out of these 4, habitat loss and fragmentation is the most important cause. So this is evil quartet. Quartet means 4. These are the evil reasons of biodiversity loss. Let's talk more about these evil factors. First is habitat loss and fragmentation. Most important reason, most dramatic example of loss from the tropical rainforest. So Amazon forests have been suffering the maximum habitat and fragmentation. So the area has already been reduced from 4 to 6%. They are known as lungs of the planet, so need to be taken care of. But why have they facing this fragmentation and habitat loss? Because people are cutting down Amazon forests for soya bean cultivation and for raising the beef cattle. They're clearing out the forest for soya bean cultivation and for raising the beef cattle. Then second reason is overexploitation. So when need becomes greed, that is overexploitation. And in last 500 years, we have just seen that there's been such a big number which has undergone extinction. So recent examples are Steller's sea cow from Russia, Passenger's pigeon, Dodo Mauritius, Kaga in Africa, Thylacine in Australia, and subspecies of tiger, Java, Caspian, Bali. These are the 3 subspecies named. So you have to learn these names as it is. You can get this question and match the following. Then alien species invasion. So what is alien species invasion? It means some foreign species will come and inhabit the area and eliminate the native species. See, decline and extinction of native indigenous species due to the intentional or unintentional introduction of alien species. For example, Nile perch. So when this Nile perch was introduced in Lake Victoria, it removed the 200 species of cichlid fish, they got extinct. So this is the alien species. Similarly, when African catfish named Clarius garipinus was introduced, it made the indigenous catfish extinct. Again, you must know. So these examples are important. And then third example of alien species, these are some plant species which are invasive: Parthenium, Lantana, Ishornia. They have all been they've all invaded our land area in India. They don't belong to India, but they have come here. They have invaded India, Indian lands, Indian areas, and now we see them everywhere. And then co-extinction. What is co-extinction? So we know the organisms which show obligatory relationship, they always co-evolve and co-extinct simultaneously. So observed in mutually co-dependent species in obligatory manner, show co-evolution, co-extinction. For example, pollinators and plant species, told you there. Parasite and the host. So parasite, the host, will also show co-extinction. Are these points clear? Then loss of biodiversity leads to decline in the plant production, lowered resistance of environmental disturbances, and increased variation of plant productivity, water use, and pest and disease cycle. Then what are the biodiversity conservation? What are the, first of all, reasons to conserve? So we have 3 different mindsets. One is narrow utilitarian, second is broadly utilitarian, and third is ethical utilitarian. See, narrow utilitarian means you think about the direct benefits, right? For example, this ecosystem is giving you food, fuel, fiber, construction, material, industrial products, and medicine. So 25% of the medicines, they are plant-based. Is it clear? So this is narrow utilitarian argument. Then think about in preserving your biodiversity with broadly utilitarian idea. So what is broadly utilitarian argument? That ecosystem provides you so many services. For example, photosynthesis, and they are producing lots of oxygen. 20% of the oxygen is coming from Amazon. They show pollination, they are important for pollination, and they give you aesthetic pleasures of walking into the gardens and all these things. And then ethical utilitarian argument believes in the philosophical and spiritual aspect that earth does not only belong to us, so all the species have equal rights to survive like us, and we should leave all this biodiversity as a legacy for the future generation. This is all philosophical and spiritual. Now very important comes the methods of conservation. So you have to remember first of all which ones are in situ, which ones are ex situ. This slide is one of the most important slides in today's session. So in situ means if the organism is preserved in-house, in-site conservation, biosphere reserves, national parks, sanctuaries, sacred gardens, and hotspots. How many of these are present in India? You must know. And then ex situ means taking the organism away from their natural habitat in order to preserve them, because they are not safe in the habitat, or the habitat is undergoing fragmentation, loss of habitat. So we take them out from their place and preserve them separately. For example, in zoological parks, in short zoo, botanical gardens, wildlife safari, pollen banks, seed banks. Cryopreservation is done. So these are all methods of ex situ. Is that clear? While sphere reserves, national parks, sanctuaries, sacred groves, and hotspots, they are all methods of in situ conservation. Now very important, sacred groves. This year also we got a question on sacred groves. Yes. So what are these sacred groves? These are tracts of forest set aside with all the trees and wildlife within them, venerated. Venerated means worshipped. You know, there are certain trees in India also which are highly worshipped, right? We have that belief in them that if we go and worship around that tree, that then our wishes will be fulfilled. So similarly, there are some regions, some tracts of the forest which are set aside and venerated and given total protection. So these are the examples. Khasi and Jaintia hills in Meghalaya, sacred groves. Aravali's in Rajasthan, Western Ghats in Karnataka and Maharashtra, Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar in Meghalaya, in Madhya Pradesh. And in Meghalaya, these sacred groves are the last refuges of large number of rare and threatened plants. Is that clear? So these examples must be learned. And then guys, let's talk last about just a second. Let's talk about hotspots here. So what are hotspots? So hotspots are those regions which show two features. One, they should have high degree of endemism, and they should show maximum biodiversity or richness, species richness. So the area which has large number of species, different species, biodiversity, and also such species which are not found anywhere. Endemism means only available at a specific area and not found anywhere else in the world, that is endemic. Is that clear? So such areas are known as, such regions are designated as hotspots. Now hotspots, they cover less than 2% of the land area, right? But initially there were 25 hotspots, but now 9 more have been added. So in total we have 34 hotspots in the world. And as a matter of fact, they are facing maximum threat of extinction due to accelerated habitat loss. So protection of hotspots can reduce mass extinction by 30%. What are endemic species? I've just told you. So which are restricted only to a particular area only. So 3 hotspots cover the Indian regions. 1, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. second Indo-Burma, and third is Himalayas. So these are three hotspots which cover the Indian land area. Is that clear? Then talking about biosphere reserves, it is the UNESCO's plan under Man and Biosphere program. So there are three zones in which that area is divided: transition zone, buffer zone, and core zone. In core zone, no human activity is allowed, not even their entry is allowed. In buffer zone, there are no human settlements, but you can reach the buffer zone with proper permissions for the purpose of some research. While in transition zone, there are human settlements, like tribes are living here. So human settlements are there. They are using the resources for their survival, but they are also protecting, and they are so rigid, they will not allow the entry of any outsider there. So whole area is well protected, and it comes under the criminal act if you destroy anything here. Is that clear? So last not the least, we have Earth Summit and World Summit. Earth Summit, guys, was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. This is known as the Historic Convention on Biological Diversity. So what was the objective? All nations took appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization of benefits. Then later on, the follow-up happened in 2002, right? The World Summit, Earth Summit happened first, and then came the World Summit. In World Summit, it was about sustainable development. It was held in Johannesburg, South Africa. 190 countries pledged that their commitment to achieve by 2010, which is long gone, a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global, regional, and local levels. So these are the two different summits and their objectives. Please let me know that these points are clear, and guys, with this, the ecology is done. And once again, let me remind you that All India Mock Test Series AIMT is being held tomorrow, 7th June, 2 p.m., 2 to 5 p.m. Quickly set in your alarm right now so that you don't forget and don't miss this test. Quickly do that, and let's take a water break. Yes, guys. All right, guys. So now we are left with the last chapter. Sorry. We are left with the last chapter, which is actually the first chapter of class 12, which is sexual reproduction in angiosperms. Yes, please. Let me know that we are all set, all ready. Quickly give me a thumbs up. Now you stopped giving me green hearts. You used to send me green hearts before your NEET exam. There are no green hearts now. Green hearts, I love green hearts. Yes, guys. If you miss the exam by any chance tomorrow, can we reattempt it later? Yes, Hatspanth, you can, but I'm not keeping any special class, by the way, tomorrow. So I am not taking any special class tomorrow at between 2 to 5, guys, for the same reason. You have to take this test. So all the students who are associated with me on my Telegram channel and otherwise in the special classes also, they must know there is no class, special class. I want all of you to dedicate that time for this mock test. There should be no chance that you should miss it. This is no time of missing these tests, Rather, you should be craving. Okay, let's give this mock test now. Oh, wow. Thank you for the green hearts. All right. Thank you, Venkatesh. Is that clear? Shall we start? All ready? Quickly let me know. Energy level high? Quickly tell me. Shall we start it? And quickly revise this chapter, right? Perfect. So this is sexual reproduction in angiosperms, guys. Let's talk about the flower. Flower represents the reproductive unit. It is a condensed shoot and a modified shoot. We have already discussed this in the chapter of morphology also, where leaves modify into floral appendages, internodes condense on thalamus, and even shoot apical meristem modifies into floral meristem. Yes, and we don't really know what is that chemical which is leading to all these changes, but we have identified a hypothetical hormone which is known as florigen, right? So there are 4 whorls, which is sepals, petals, stamens, and pistil, also known as carpel, collectively known as calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are the non-essential or the accessory whorls, while androecium and gynoecium are the essential whorls. And stamen will also be known as microsporophyll. We have discussed plantae very in proper detail, and megasporophyll is the term used for pistil or carpel. Now the flower which has all the 4 whorls will be known as complete flower, and if any of these whorls is missing, it is known as incomplete. Is that clear? Now moving on to the next. So let's first talk about structure of stamen. So structure of stamen is also known as microsporophyll. Stamen is also known as microsporophyll. So in the microsporophyll, see, this is the stamen. Stamen has 2 parts. One is the filament, and then we have the anther. So filament, the proximal end of filament is attached to thalamus, while the distal end is attached to the anther. What is the function of filament? It helps the anther to get exposed in the air so that the pollens can be easily carried away. Also, filament brings the vascular, it conducts water and minerals and food, right? Now, talking about anther. So anther, there are some typical features of an angiosperm anther. So anther is diathecous, that means it has these 2 pollen sacs in each, and then this is diathecous. It is tetrasporangiate, it is bilobed, and it is tetragonal. Tetragonal means it has 4 corners, there are 2 lobes, hence it is bilobed, and there are 4 pollen sacs in total, hence it is tetrasporangiate. Is that clear? Now, pollen sac is filled with, so pollen sac is also known as microsporangium, and it is filled with the sporogenous tissue, right? And sporogenous tissue is filled with pollen mother cells or microspore mother cells. Is that clear? Now see here. So pollen mother cell is diploid. It will undergo meiosis and form 1 microspore tetrad. So meiosis will give rise to 4 cells. All the 4 cells are clubbed together, so it forms 1 tetrad. So what keeps them together? So there is this secretion known as callose, right? So there is a callose layer present around a microspore mother cell or a pollen mother cell. So even if meiosis takes place and 4 cells are produced, they are held together. So remember, 1 MMC will give rise to 1 tetrad. Now when callase comes in, this is an enzyme which will dissolve this callose, and now the microspores will be separated. So 1 MMC gives rise to 1 tetrad and 4 microspores. And because it is these are the product of meiosis, they are all haploid. Is this clear? Just the same thing. Now, let's go into the detail of the anther structure. So we see that it has this 4-cornered structure, butterfly-like structure. So this is the connective which connects the 2 different lobes, and in each lobe we have 2 pollen sacs. So that is diathecous. Now, if we talk about the wall of the anther, guys, has 4 layers. Epidermis, single layer of epidermis, then inner to that single layer of endothecium, then 2 to 3 layers of middle layers, and then fourth, innermost, 1 layer of tapetum. Now, the outer 3 layers, epidermis, endothelium and middle layers, they are protective and they will also help in dehiscence of pollen grains. Now, out of these, endothelium middle layers are hygroscopic, they can absorb water. If we talk about the innermost layer, that is tapetum, the cells of tapetum are either binucleated or multinucleated. Now this increases the efficiency of providing nutrition. So that is a function of tapetum. It provides nutrition to the developing microspores, right? So nutritive, this callase layer around MMC and then callase enzyme which will dissolve this layer, both come from tapetum. And very important, sporopollenin, which will form a layer around the pollen grains. The sporopollenin is also secreted by tapetum. Are these points clear to all? Please tell me, are these points clear to all? Now see, the microspore the 4 microspores which are formed here, all the 4 are functional here. And this process of microspore formation is known as microsporogenesis. What type of division is involved in microsporogenesis? This is meiosis. Is that clear? So what is this process known as? Microsporogenesis. Is that clear? And what is the division involved? It is meiosis. Now what will happen? There are 4 microspores formed. Each microspore will now further undergo mitosis. So each of the microspore, it will undergo first mitosis, right, and form 2 cells. Now remember, there is asymmetric spindle formation. That is why the 2 cells formed, out of which one is larger and this other is smaller. Now the larger cell is known as vegetative cell. It will develop into the pollen tube. It will help in pollen tube formation. It has a large vacuole and it stores lot of food. Is that clear? While the smaller one is floating in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. Is that clear? What is the shape? It is spindle shaped, right? It is small, it is spindle shaped. And now this microspore, which has 2 cells, it will be known as still a microspore. But this is 1-celled microspore. This will be known as 2-celled microspore. And now it is at this stage that the pollen grains will pollinate. Anther will rupture and pollen grains will land on the stigma. So pollination in 60% of the angiosperms occur at this 2-celled condition, right? So the next part of the development, that is the second mitosis, it will occur while it is landed on the stigma. It has landed on the stigma. Now what will happen? The vegetative cell will not undergo any change, but the generative cell, this GC, generative cell will undergo mitosis. So second mitosis occurs only in the generative cell, which results in the formation of 2 male gametes, right? So this is a 3-celled microspore. This is a 3-celled microspore. So the term microspore remains 1-celled, 2-celled and 3-celled. Now in this process, we are developing 2 male gametes. So microspore will undergo 2 mitosis to form male gametes. This process is known as microgametogenesis. And what type of gametogenesis? And what type of division occurs? It is mitosis. How many? 2. Is that clear? So starting the journey from microspore mother cell to male gametes. So how many mitoses? Sorry, which all divisions? 1 meiosis and 2 mitosis. Is that clear? Please tell me these points are clear to everyone. So guys, see, the male gametophyte is highly reduced. That is what we read in plant kingdom. In gymnosperms and angiosperms, the male gametophyte is highly reduced. See, it is just 2 to 3 celled. This is how reduced the male gametophyte is now. Clear? So this is about microsporophyll, microsporogenesis and microgametogenesis. Please tell me that these points are clear. And this is the structure of anther. This is the structure of anther. Is that clear? Now see, last not the least, of course, talking about the microspore. If I tell you the detailed structure of microspore, be it 2-celled or 3-celled condition, let's say it is a 2-celled condition. So this is the plasma membrane, right? This represents the vegetative cell. We have already discussed about it. This represents the generative cell. So this is a plasma membrane. Now outside the plasma membrane, there is present a cell wall, which is actually now referred as intine. This represents a cell wall and known as intine. This is equivalent to cell wall. Is that clear? What is it made up of? It is made up of cellulose plus pectin. It is inner and it is continuously present. And later on, it will come out as pollen tube. It develops into pollen tube. Is that clear to all? It develops into pollen tube. Now, outside this, we have this highly sculptured layer, and this highly sculptured layer is known as exine. This is exine. So if we see the difference here, exine with respect to intine, this exine is made up of sporopollenin, which is secreted by tapetum, just discussed, right? This is outer, and do you see it is not continuously present, it is absent somewhere here, right? So it is discontinuous and absent at the germ pore. Absent at the germ pore. So this is germ pore. This area where there is no exine but intine is present, this is called the germ pore. Is that clear to everyone? Right? Now, looking at the number of germ pores, I can exactly tell whether it is a dicot or it is a monocot. So dicots will have around 2 to 3 germ pores, while monocots will have around 1. So the number will help us determine. Is that clear? So this is the structure of male gametophyte. Now coming on to the female part. The female part starts with pistil. So we have this, see, stigma, style, ovary. So stigma is the landing platform for pollens, right? Style is the tubular structure. It can be solid or hollow, and it connects the stigma to ovary and becomes a passage for the pollen tube. And this basal swollen structure, at the basal swollen structure which contains one or many ovules, this is known as ovary. Is that clear? Okay. Now, if I talk about ovary, so see, this is ovary, this is the ovarian wall, this is the ovarian wall, and within the ovarian wall, we have this cushion-like structure called placenta, onto which the ovule will be attached. So there can be one ovule within the ovary, or there can be multiple ovules. But I am going to discuss the structure of single ovule here. So this is cushion-like structure, placenta, and the arrangement of placenta within the ovary is known as placentation, already discussed in morphology. Now see, the stalk of the ovule is known as funicle, right? Now funicle is attached to the body of the ovule at a point which is known as hilum, the site of attachment of funicle. Clear? Sometimes this funicle is expanded around the ovule, and that is known as raphe. You can skip that also. Now this is the ovule. Now, by the way, this is inverted ovule, and 82% of angiosperms will have this inverted ovule known as anatropous. Now, when we are discussing an angiosperm, we are talking about sexual reproduction in flowering plants, angiosperms. In angiosperm, the typical features of ovule are, one, they are, most of them, they are anatropous. See, 82% of them are anatropous, inverted. And secondly, they are bitegmic, while in gymnosperms they were unitegmic, right? So there are two integuments, outer and inner. Do we see that? Now, this opening is known as micropyle, and this end is known as chalaza. Now see, I am calling this part as the lower end and this micropyle as the upper end, although it is present on the lower side. Why do we do that? Because actually it was like this. This is a straight ovule, and the opening is here. The opening is known as the micropyle. It is on the upper end. But gradually it inverted and became like this, right? So the upper end has moved downward, but we still use the same terminology. Micropyle is always regarded as the upper end, and chalaza is known as the lower end. Is that clear? Now, the sporophytic tissue which fills the whole ovule, the diploid tissue present within the ovule, this is known as nucellus. And what is the function of nucellus? It is nutritive. It is all nutritive. It will provide nutrition. Now, all the cells of nucellus, they are 2n. All right. Now see here. One cell of the nucellar, out of so many nucellar cells, only one cell will be acting as MMC, that is megaspore mother cell. See, in case of anther, the whole microsporangium was packed with microspore mother cells because we need pollen grains in large amount, right? Because of the wastage. But here, only one cell, nucellar cell, will act as a megaspore mother cell, which is also 2n. Now, what will happen? What will happen to megaspore mother cell? See, we have already discussed this. Let me come back to it later. So, what happens to megaspore mother cell? Just like microspore mother cell, this will also undergo meiosis and form 4 cells, 4 megaspores, 4 microspores there, 4 megaspores here. Absolutely same. But in case of microsporogenesis, the 4 microspores will all functional. But in this case, guys, the 3 out of 4 will degenerate and only one will remain functional. Now, which one will degenerate? Those at the micropylar end will degenerate and the one at the chalazal end will remain functional. Is that clear? This process is called megasporogenesis, and what type of division does it involve? One, meiosis. Clear? Now, this functional megaspore will now undergo mitosis. First mitosis, second mitosis, third mitosis. Now, the difference here is that mitosis will only involve karyokinesis. Only nuclear division will occur. It will not be immediately followed by cytokinesis. Is it clear? Cell wall formation will not occur. So, we call such mitosis as free nuclear division. Clear? So, how many? 3. So, one megaspore will give rise to 2 nucleated embryo sacs. I'm telling you, only nucleus is going to divide, and this structure is now known as embryo sac. 2 nucleate, again second mitosis to 2 give rise to 4 nuclei, so 4 nucleated, and third mitosis give rise to 8 nucleated embryo sac. Now, after the 8 nuclei have been formed, these 8 nuclei will now undergo rearrangement. Is it clear? So, what is the rearrangement like? See, this is your ovule, these are integuments, this is all nucellus, right? And this is the embryo sac that I am discussing. Now, this embryo sac will undergo rearrangement. What is the rearrangement? Now, out of these 8 nuclei, guys, let's say these 3 nuclei go towards the chalazal end and they form these 3 antipodals. Now, all these are N. All these are N because they have all been the result of meiosis. So, 3 nuclei move towards the chalazal end, develop their cell walls and become 3 antipodals, right? Now, similarly, these three will move towards the micropylar end and form egg apparatus. The center one will form the female gamete and the surrounding 2 will form the synergids. Together, these 3, they will be known as egg apparatus. Together, these 3 will be known as egg apparatus. Is that clear? Now, so you must know that egg apparatus consists of 1 egg cell and 2 synergids. Clear to all? Alright. Now, what is so special about these synergids? Synergids, guys, have this finger-like processes known as filiform apparatus. These filiform apparatus, they will produce a chemical to guide the pollen tube. They guide the pollen tube. This is a PYQ. They guide the pollen tube. Is that clear? So, pollen tube is going to enter through one of the synergids, not both, of course. Is that clear? Now, so 3 went on the chalazal end and formed 3 antipodals, 3 others on the micropylar end and developed the egg apparatus. Now, the 2 remaining in the center are known as 2 polar nuclei, and this largest cell remaining these antipodals and egg apparatus, this larger cell is known as central cell. So, central cell has 2 polar nuclei. So, this is the rearrangement. So, during this rearrangement, what happened? 6 cell walls have developed. 3 around the antipodals and 3 around these egg apparatus, components of egg apparatus. Is that clear? Now, there is no cell wall around the central cell. Clear? So, 6 cell walls have formed then. How many cells have been formed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. 7 cells have been formed. And how many nuclei were there? 8 nuclei. So remember, 7-celled and 8 nucleated condition, this is a characteristic feature of angiosperms only. And now after this rearrangement, this embryo sac is known as mature embryo sac, right? And guys, this mature embryo sac is known as the female gametophyte. Gametophyte means which contains female gamete. It contains this female gamete. Yes or no? Please tell me these points are clear. Right? So this is about microsporogenesis, and after the formation of mature embryo sac, this process of megagametogenesis gets completed. This is megasporogenesis involving 1 meiosis, megagametogenesis involving 3 mitoses. Please tell me these points are clear. Right? So can you solve these numericals? How many mitoses? We'll come to this later. We'll solve all these questions in the special class, guys. We'll solve all these questions in the special class. Now, this one slide has everything about pollination. Please tell me that these points are visible to you, right? It is clearly visible. Now, this one slide has everything about pollination. Please listen. Okay. Now, so what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. What are the different kinds of pollination? We have autogamy, then we have geitonogamy, and we also have cross pollination or xenogamy. Where is it written? Okay, I have missed that point. And the third one is cross pollination or xenogamy. All right, is that clear? Now, what is autogamy? So when the transfer of pollen grain occurs from anther to stigma of the same flower, and geitonogamy from one flower to the stigma of another flower, but same plant, right? While in xenogamy, it is between different plants. Is that clear? For xenogamy, we say it is genetically similar to autogamy because the plant is the same, but functionally it is more like cross pollination or xenogamy. Now, what are the conditions for autogamy, guys? If you want autogamy to occur, there has to be synchronization between pollen release and stigma receptivity. Second, anthers and stigma should lie close to each other. They should lie close to each other. Third, cleistogamous flowers means the closed flowers. They will never open. These closed flowers will invariably show autogamy, NCERT line. So when they are never opening up, there's only possibility of self-pollination. So they do not open and ensure autogamy. For example, viola, oxalis and commelina, these examples are important. While in case of flowers which normally open, exposed anthers and stigma, right? In these cases, autogamy may occur or it may not. There are lesser chances of autogamy occurring, but it may occur. But it does not ensure autogamy. While this cleistogamy, it ensures autogamy. See, it's written, it ensures autogamy. Are these points clear to everyone? Please let me know. Are these points clear to everyone? Right? Now, let's talk about different pollinating agents. So, I have missed certain points, guys. Here, my one slide is missing. Never mind, we'll discuss it. So, wind pollination, there are certain factors, there are different mechanisms of wind pollination, there are different mechanisms, pollinating agents, there are different pollinating agents. So, it can be biotic or abiotic. Biotic means the living factors, insects, animals which are helping in pollination, humans as well, and the non-living factors like abiotic factors like wind and water. Is that clear? So here we have large animals, insects, birds, mammals, even humans, right? It can be reptiles, birds as well, all of them helping in pollination. Now, out of these, biotic and abiotic, biotic are used more as compared to abiotic. Is that clear? If I compare wind and water, then wind is used as a pollinating agent more as compared to water. And then in biotic also, biotic also, amongst the biotic, insects are the most important and dominating pollinating agents, and in insects it is the bees which are the most dominating. Bees the most dominating pollinating agents. Are these clear? So one thing is for sure, that all the plant species which are using biotic pollinating agents, they have to give something in return, which is known as floral reward. So floral rewards are there for all the biotic pollinating agents, while they are not for abiotic. What are the floral agent rewards? Like pollen, nectar, and then safe egg laying sites also in some cases. Safe egg laying sites. Is that clear? Now, talking about, see, what will happen in geitonogamy? Transfer of, this is done. Let's talk about wind pollination, also known as anemophily. So, the characteristics of plant differ depending upon the type of pollinating agent that they are adapted to, right? So, for example, those which undergo wind pollination, they have light and non-sticky pollen grains, well-exposed stamens, large feathery stigma. For example, like in grasses, corn cob, that is maize, and coconut, right? Those in water pollination, see, water pollination is the least. Even the plants which are living in water, the aquatic plants also don't use water pollination that much, right? So example is Vallisneria and Hydrilla. These are fresh water. And this seagrass, example is Zostera. This is marine, right? So the difference between the two would be, in Vallisneria, female flowers will reach the surface by long stalk, and male flowers are already released on the water surface. So pollination occurs on the water surface. While in case of seagrass, female flowers remain submerged, pollen grains long ribble-like, and they will dip into the water. So pollination occurs inside the water. Example is Zostera. Now, in case of animal pollination or zoophily, majority of the plants use that. The common animals are this bees and butterflies, flies, beetles, wasps, birds, bats, even large animals and reptiles, which I've told you, right? Now, there are floral rewards. I told you nectar and edible pollens, but in some cases, like in yucca, like in Amorphophallus is the tallest flower, 6 feet tall, Amorphophallus. So Amorphophallus, they all provide safe egg laying sites, right? These are all floral rewards. Now, adaptations in case of biotic agent, the plants which are using biotic agents, like animal pollinated flowers, they are large, they have to be colorful, they have to be fragrant, they have to be rich in nectar. Is that clear? So what happens when the animal comes in search of nectar and pollen grains? So these pollen grains, they stick to the body of animal and get transferred. Is that clear? Now, there are certain devices in plants which ensure self-pollination. For example, cleistogamy, right? We see that the pollen release and stigma receptivity, they will synchronize, so that the moment pollen grains are released, stigma is receptive and autogamy occurs. Now, these devices are called inbreeding devices. Now let's talk about outbreeding devices. Outbreedings are which prevent self-pollination. So they will encourage cross-pollination. What are the devices? Number one, the pollen release and stigma receptivity not synchronized. So it will prevent autogamy, but still geitonogamy may occur. Now, anther and stigma placed at different positions. Again, it will not fall on its own stigma, prevents self-pollination. Then we have self-incompatibility. This is a genetic mechanism in which the pollen grains with the same proteins, they will not germinate. So that is self-incompatibility. Is that clear? Fourth, plant produces unisexual flowers. Is that clear? So the unisexual flowers means it will either have male flower or male part stamen, or it will only have pistil, right? So unisexual flowers. So male and female flowers, but on the same plant. So now this will ensure that autogamy is prevented, but geitonogamy can still occur. Autogamy, it will not happen, but geitonogamy can still occur. But in case the unisexual flowers are produced on different plants, so now this will prevent autogamy as well as geitonogamy. For example, in case of papaya. Are these points clear? These are the outbreeding devices. Now what happens? Pollen and pistil will interact. Now this is a chemical process, dynamic process, in which there is recognition of whether the pollen grain is compatible or not, and it is a chemical phenomena. There is a chemical dialogue, chemical phenomena. Is this clear? Now, what are the things that are going to happen? Once the compatibility matching is done and it is accepted, then the stigma is going to release certain molecules and water, moisture for the germination of pollen on the stigma. So, pollen tube will develop, and pollen tube, what is the pollen tube? It is the outgrowth of intine from the germ pore, right? Pollen tube will develop, it will grow through the whole style and enter into the ovule. Is that clear? And release the male gametes there. Please tell me these points are clear to all. Now see, this is all pollen pistil interaction. Told you, chemical interaction, compatibility matching, intine absorbs water, pollen tube germinates. So see, this is the pollen tube, right? And in pollen tube, two male gametes are coming, and the tube nucleus, which is actually the vegetative nucleus of the vegetative cell, it leads them. Why? Is that clear? So tube nucleus, it will secrete certain molecules, certain chemicals, certain proteins to dissolve the styler tissue, and it shows chemotaxis also towards the filiform apparatus. Is that clear? And this pollen tube can enter the ovule through three different channels. It can either just penetrate through chalaza, or it can penetrate through the integuments, but the most often used method is, generally, this pollen tube will move from here, and through micropyle it is going to enter into the ovule. This is called porogamy, right? So once it enters the embryo sac through one of the synergids, so pollen tube is going to see it enters through one of the synergid. Is that clear? Now, after entering guys, so what is there? There are two male gametes. This will result in double fertilization. So this is a characteristic of angiosperms. In angiosperm, it is not single, it is double fertilization. See, one male gamete will fuse with a female gamete, right? This fusion is known as syngamy, and this is known as syngamy, and it will result in the formation of N and N, 2N structure called zygote. This is first fusion. Second, simultaneously, the second male gamete will fuse with two polar nuclei, N and N. So, since three nuclei fusing, this is called triple fusion, and this will result in the formation of pen. So, the three nuclei, they will form pen. Actually, there is a formation of secondary nucleus before, but NCERT has not mentioned about it. So, we'll just call it triple fusion. Is that clear? And the central cell becomes primary endosperm cell. Clear? So, the nuclei will form pen, and the central cell will form the PEC, primary endosperm cell. Are these points clear? So, these are the first post-fertilization structures formed after double fertilization. Now, what happens during post-fertilization development? Zygote has to develop into embryo by undergoing mitosis, multicellular structure, and pen has to undergo mitosis to form endosperm. So, two things will happen: embryo formation and endosperm development. Now, remember, endosperm development will precede the embryonic development. So, first endosperm will develop, and then embryonic development will fasten up. Why? Because endosperm is the food. Now, let's see how endosperm development occurs. So, this is the first nuclei, or the cell is called, see, this is pen, and the cell is known as PEC, right? So, the nucleus, it undergoes free nuclear divisions, and now you know what free nuclear divisions are. only karyokinesis, no cytokinesis. So many free nuclear divisions will occur, giving rise to a multinucleated structure. It is giving rise to a multinucleated structure, and this is known as endosperm. Because it has been formed by free nuclear division, it is known as free nuclear endosperm. Right? Now later on, the cell wall formation will occur. This is called cellularization. So around these nuclei, these cell walls will develop and they will form individual cells. And now this endosperm is known as cellular endosperm. Now, if we want to understand what does it look like, let's take an example of coconut. So coconut water, the milk of coconut that we drink, that is free nuclear endosperm, coconut pani, right? And then gradually we see the level of water, the amount of water goes on reducing, and that white part, that kernel, the white part, that edible part, that goes on increasing. So why? Because that water is a free nuclear endosperm. It is undergoing cellularization and turning into cells. So water decreases, but the white kernel part goes on increasing. Is that clear? Now, let's talk about the embryonic development here. See, what happens post fertilization? Synergids will degenerate, only the zygote will remain behind, the cell is known as spec, and the nucleus will become pen. Antipodals will also degenerate. What was the function of antipodals? They were withdrawing nourishment from nucellus and passing it on to the embryo sac. Clear? Now, so this, I'm going to talk about this zygote. This is the zygote. So zygote will form two cells. So here, two cells will be formed, one larger cell and one smaller cell. This is how two cells will look like, right? After two-celled stage, it will form this random multicellular structure called proembryo. Then proembryo will then change into three different divisions. The one bigger cell is known as holdfast, through which it is attached to the embryo sac. So here we have a holdfast. This is a holdfast. These are the suspensor cells. These are the suspensor cells, and then here develops this. So this is the alignment of the whole structure. This is the globular embryo. Now I hope you are able to understand how these structures are placed within the embryo sac, right? And now you also understand why do we call it embryo sac? It is a site for embryo formation. Now see, this structure is known as globular embryo sac. After a while, it will start invaginating, giving it this heart-shaped structure. So we call it heart-shaped or caudate embryo, right? What is the function of holdfast? It helps to, it is for the attachment of embryo sac to the wall of the, it is for the attachment of embryo to the wall of embryo sac, right? What is the function of suspensor? So suspensor cells are pushing the embryo deep into the endosperm, right? So as the embryo goes on increasing, the suspensor goes on reducing, okay? The cells will shrivel. So this is heart-shaped, and now it has developed even further, and now these structures have taken the form of cotyledons or seed leaves. Now here it will be the radicle that develops. This is the site for plumule, and these are the two cotyledons. These are the two cotyledons, and this represents the mature embryo. So we have already got a question in previous year that which of the following is the correct sequence of development. You should know the sequence. It is zygote, then proembryo, then zygote, then two-celled stage, then proembryo, then globular, then heart-shaped, and then mature. And you should be able to identify the pictures as well. Are these points clear to all? Yes? So now guys, what happens during this embryonic development? The endosperm which has been formed, it may be completely consumed or it may remain behind, right? Now as a fact, most of the monocots, the endosperm remains. It is not completely consumed. So the monocot seeds are known as endospermic seeds, for example, castor, coconut, and cereals. While in dicots, the endosperm is completely consumed. So most of the dicot seeds are called non-endospermic seeds, like pea, bean, and groundnut. Because endosperm is completely consumed, that is why they need two cotyledons. Cotyledons are also storing food. Okay, so here endosperm is persistent, so we just need one cotyledon. So see the diagram here. So these are the lines that I've already mentioned. So this represents the typical dicot embryo. See the position of plumule. These are the cotyledons. This is the hypocotyle. This is the radicle, which will develop into root. And this represents the root cap. And here we have the embryo of a grass, that is the monocot. So this is a cotyledon, single cotyledon known as scutellum, right? This is the coleoptile. It is the covering or the sheath for the plumule. Sheath of plumulus coleoptile. This is the shoot apex. This is the shoot apex. This represents the epiblast. This is the radicle. This represents the root cap. And coleorhiza. It is the sheath of the covering of the radicle. Are these points clear? While coleorhiza and coleoptile are absent in dicots completely. Please tell me these points are clear. Now, talking about seed. See, very important. So, seed consists of seed coat, cotyledons 1 or 2, and the embryonal axis. These are the three components of seed. Seed coat, cotyledons, and embryonal axis. Is that clear? What is the function of cotyledons? They are thick and swollen due to storage of food. And I've already told you about endospermic and non-endospermic. So endospermic are known as albuminous, and non-endospermic, same. So non-endospermic will be known as non-albuminous. Is that clear? So there is this important line. Sometimes, see, occasionally in some seeds like black pepper, like beetroot, nucellus is also persistent. See, nucellus is also a nutritive tissue, so it usually gets consumed. But in some seeds that remains behind. For example, in black pepper and in beetroot, and the remaining part of nucellus is known as perisperm. Is that clear? So this is about cotyledons. This is about nucellus remaining behind. Now let's talk about the seed coat. Now we know that ovule had two coverings. See, ovule is becoming seed. So the covering of ovule will become the seed coat, right? There are two coverings, so two seed coats. Is that clear? Now there is micropyle. What happens to the micropyle? That micropyle will remain. So micropyle will function as a pore for diffusion of gases, gaseous diffusion, and for water absorption during seed germination. So water will enter into the seed through micropyle. Also, gaseous diffusion, she told you, it facilitates entry of oxygen and water. As the seed matures, it relatively dries. 10 to 15% of the water only remains behind, and as the water dehydrates, the embryonic metabolic activity slows down, and this is known as seed dormancy, and this is very important. It is an important step in the life cycle of seed, right? Then ovary will become fruit. So what am I talking about? I am talking about post-fertilization changes. We are discussing post-fertilization changes, right? See, ovary will become a fruit, ovules into seed, and ovary into the fruit proceeds simultaneously. Ovary wall will develop the fruit wall, and the fruit wall is known as pericarp. See, here it is perisperm. Perisperm is the remnant of nucellus. Pericarp, carp word is always for fruit. Wherever you come across this word carp, except for carpel, monocarpic, right? Pericarp. So carp is a fruit wall, right? So now see, the pericarp, the fruits may be fleshy. The fruits may be fleshy, like in guava, orange, and mango, or they can be dry, as in groundnut or mustard. Is that clear? Now, you must know these examples. Many fruits have evolved from these mechanisms for the dispersal of seeds. Is that clear? Now, talking about the true fruit and the false fruit. True fruit will always develop from ovary, like all this mango, guava, these are all true fruits. But false fruit will develop from part other than ovary, and usually thalamus. Like for example, apple, strawberry, and cashews. These are the examples of false fruits. Is that clear? Examples of false fruits. Now there is another phenomena, parthenocarpy, where fruit will develop without fertilization. For example, banana. So if there is no fertilization here, even the seeds will not develop. But then there is another phenomena called apomixis, in which again there is no fertilization, but here seeds will develop. Is that clear? So that is not mandatory that if there is no fertilization, there will be no seed at all. No, seed can still be formed, but then the phenomena will be apomixis. So we say, since there is seed formation, so it mimics sexual reproduction. It mimics sexual reproduction, but because there is no fertilization, it is actually asexual reproduction. It is asexual reproduction that mimics sexual reproduction. Is that clear? It is seen in Asteraceae and grasses. Now, because it is asexual reproduction, it is going to conserve the parental characters. Clear? Now, let's talk about the seed viability. So, seed viability has been noticed. Just a second, guys. So, seed viability has been noticed. All right, guys, let's quickly complete. So the seed viability, it is oldest seed has been observed. The oldest seed which is observed is that of lupine, lupinus, which is excavated from Arctic tundra, and that was 10,000 years old. So these many years of dormancy. Second is 2,000 years old viable seed of date palm, that is Phoenix dactylifera, excavated from King Herod's place near the Dead Sea. Is that clear? So I've discussed apomixis. So in case of apomixis, guys, because it is asexual reproduction, so basically it is developing from a diploid egg cell without reductional division. So you should be clear about these diagrams given in here. So guys, with this we complete our chapter and our syllabus, and now you should be thorough with your whole thing. If you have any doubt, please contact, please talk to us, attend all the practice sessions in the special classes, and tomorrow you have your AIMT, which you should not miss. I'll see you in next special classes and other sessions. Very important things coming up. Till then, keep revising. Make sure if there is any doubt left, you let me know in the comment section.